but why does it keep coming up? I was like joking with the rankings team. I was like, it is getting to the point of like, look, we're not trading Mark Andrews, okay? He's a core
Don't
piece
ask
of
me
what
if
we
I'm
do.
mad. I'm not mad. Stop asking me.
Yeah. And it's like, no one brought it up, man. Like, you what? It's just.
So what do you think Lamar's going to do this year? I don't know, but Mark Andrews is a really key part of this football team. Stop asking me if I'm going to trade him.
We won't trade him. Don't call us about trading for him because we won't even take the call. My number, by the way.
Welcome back to the first post-NFL draft, post-best ball launch of 2025 Legendary Sickos with myself, Erik Beimfohr, and of course, Pat Kerrane from Legendary Upside. Pat, I forget this every single show. You get 40% off. You can see it at the bottom of your screen if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast feed, code LEGUP at SpikeWeek gets you 40% off of either the monthly or the annual subscription. There is not a better time right now. I've said it. If you've listened to this before, you've heard both Pat and I say it. I think the combination of everything that Spike Week does and everything that Legendary Upside does is like a hand in glove fit, and not an OJ hand in glove fit, like a real hand in glove.
I don't think anyone was thinking that until you brought it up.
Well, when I think about hand in glove, that's what I think about. Okay.
Why did you say hand in glove?
I don't know. I can't help myself, but it is a great fit. The sidekick and everything that Pat's got with rankings and content and the tools to see your exposures. And I mean, a million different other options that we have with the Draft Hacker and Draft IQ. Use code LEGUP, get 40% off Spike Week and crush some best ball drafts. What we're going to do today to hopefully help you crush some best ball drafts is discuss the most polarizing players for 2025. I think it's actually a fitting time to do this at the start, Pat, because like we just had to go through, both of us, your team, my team, and like put together rankings and start to think about our draft strategy. And you run into a lot of players where you're like, you know, maybe you even do have a take, like you have a strong take on them, but you also are like, I don't know, this could go terrible, you know, or I hate this guy, but I don't know, man, this could go pretty great, or it could go somewhere in the middle, or, you know, who knows? There is a whole bunch of these, and we have them every year. But I feel like this year, to me, feels with the market kind of like a big push-pull. With last year was just like every wide receiver with the pulse was expensive. How do we handle that? Like the polarizing part of it was like, what do I do with the wide receiver landscape? This year, it's bounced back a little bit, giving us some potential wide receiver value, but also some really fun running backs with this rookie class, etc. So I found myself stumbling into a lot of spots this year where I was like, man, geez, like I didn't expect to like this player, but I'm getting a really nice discount on him. Or I thought I would like this player, and I'm not getting so much of a discount. So I think there's a lot to get into today.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with best ball is that, you know, is the price dictates so much of what we do. And it's kind of fun to see which guys after the draft just rocket up in price and which guys really, you know, there's still some meat on the bone as far as like what the upside is relative to the price. We obviously saw Travis Hunter go to the Jaguars. That's one of the guys we want to discuss because he doesn't just go number 2 overall, but actually goes to a team that's treating him like almost like a quarterback level of team investment in terms of, you know, trading up for him and selecting him number 2. And it's like, is this guy just going to play receiver or just going to play cornerback? You almost have to have him play both ways at that point, but they're talking about him kind of being primarily a receiver. It really is sort of best case scenario for what, I mean, when I was first ranking Travis Hunter, I was, you know, in the hundreds, it is risky. This is a risky bet in the hundreds. It's gotten less risky like by the day, and now it's starting to. It's much easier to see the upside of it. But at the same time, everyone's excited now, and he's expensive, you know, relative to the risk. He's actually very expensive. So it's a tricky one where it's either going to be like a really great idea to have drafted Travis Hunter in the 40s or look like ridiculous that we took a part-time wide receiver rookie, number 2 on his own team,
or just took a corner
at pick 42. We're we're slightly ahead of ADP. I'm thinking more about the ceiling than the floor, but just barely. His ADP is 42.4 as I'm looking at it right now, and we're at 42. So really in line with the market.
Yeah, he definitely. We have to start with Travis Hunter. I think it would be disingenuous probably to start with anyone not named Travis Hunter in the most polarizing players, considering he's potentially playing offense and defense in the NFL, and he's a rookie, so we have really no idea. I have like strong feelings on really both sides of all this, and I think that's what makes him really polarizing. On one hand, you kind of laid it out, right? So he lands in a spot that I think is appealing, just like general offensive environment. Now, Trevor Lawrence, Liam Cohen needs to turn Trevor Lawrence into something better than what we've seen over the start here, or maybe I don't know. Mac Jones comes in and feeds him like I don't even know who Mac Jones plays for. I'll be honest with you, but Mac Jones turned BTJ into something better than Lawrence did. I don't remember where Mac Jones is because it's not in Jacksonville anymore, right?
It's not Jacksonville anymore, right? Yeah.
San Francisco. There you go. They should have just fucking drafted him
That's
instead
right.
of Trey Lance. We would have saved ourselves all that heartache if Mac Jones was going to land.
Yeah, he would have just gotten beaten out by Purdy.
Yeah. Trey Lance never would have, right? We still would have done the Trey Lance thing, but not in the 6th round or whatever.
I don't think we would have. I mean, a big part of it was that he went number 3 to
the Niners.
We'd have way more Justin Fields, I'll tell you that. Which
is for sure. So anyway, nothing like turning a Travis Hunter discussion into a Trey Lance discussion. But I mean, I see it, right? Like in terms of, especially if you were drafting during the big board pre-draft, like what you wanted to happen for Travis Hunter in the draft happened. A team said, this is our guy. We're like mortgaging the future is obviously, of course, slight hyperbole, but they took a significant chunk out of what their future is to say, this dude is a special player. This dude is a difference maker. That's great. I think the most logical conclusion from that is that you can't have him not play wide receiver, right? Like I don't know that I foresee. Okay, maybe a very small, maybe it was a larger percentage in April that Travis Hunter just plays corner and maybe plays, he plays a goal line wide receiver or something like that. I think the percentage of that happening has significantly shrunk given what the Jaguars just did. And I think the chances that he plays a lot of wide receiver have definitely, even potentially full time, have significantly risen. The paint, and he's a very good football player, right? There's like Gabe Davis and De'Ami Brown are not stopping Travis Hunter from being a thing, right? So all that is awesome. I see it too. I came in hoping to get Travis Hunter. The problem is that everyone else, it feels the exact same way. The way the market has reacted, like I'm seeing people posting drafts with him in the mid 30s. Like the steam, it has not stopped, and I'm not totally sure when it is going to stop unless we get to camp and we start to get, maybe he's going to play corner, right? So I don't foresee the steam stopping, and there's a certain point, I don't have it nailed down where I think like that point is, but there's a certain point where there's like very real risk here still. The risk is less than what maybe we thought it was going to be, but that doesn't mean it's not real. And so, like, at what point is the price too much? Like, at what point do we get paid? Because it's not like, well, do you think Travis Hunter will fail? It's like, at what point do I get paid off taking the other wide receivers or the other running backs there? And my payoff, if Travis Hunter is more of a corner or just a bust, like I'm not saying he's going to be, I'm just saying there's so much unknown and so much risk. When do we eventually say, okay, enough is enough? Maybe I need to draft a different wide receiver.
Yeah, so this year I did more of the pre-draft contests than I've ever done. I maxed the big board, and I don't think I maxed it last year. I got close, and I think maybe I fell a few drafts short. But in addition to that, I also did like close to 100 drafts over on DraftKings. So I've got way more of like a portfolio. I've got what I would have thought was a pretty big portfolio in like 2022. I've already drafted like 250 best ball teams before the draft. So I have a stand on Hunter, and I chased him up significantly in DraftKings. I did a bunch of my drafts on the final day, as I just was like, all right, my stuff's written. I'm just drafting today. I'm gonna try to get as many of these in as I can. And Hunter, I was taking in the 6th round pretty regularly there. I have a bunch of him in the 7th round. on both sites. I don't have nearly as much as I wish I did when he was, going in the hundreds. I have some shares from the very early drafts when you could get him at a ridiculous price. It was like 180 something that he started. So I have probably a handful of shares of that, but I got significantly overweight in the end by just being like, I'm not going to be afraid of other people having this dude completely free in this tournament. I'm going to load up in kind of this 8-9, what became 6-7 at the very end of the draft. And, it's definitely possible that I get to the final and someone's got a cheaper Travis Hunter than I do, but it never got to the point where I was like giving up my super premium capital for him. It's such a chaotic tournament. I just wanted to have the hit on there, and he's already a hit. He's already a hit at a 7th round price there, but it leaves me. One thing I like about doing the pre-draft stuff and doing it more than I did last year is that I guess I'm okay. Like if I end up being light on Travis Hunter because he's a 3rd round pick, I think I'm okay with that. Now, look, I mean, if he's a 3rd round pick because of substantial news, it's like, oh yeah, he's not really playing with the defense. He's really focused on the offense right now. Like they want to get the defensive stuff ramped up, but they don't want to put too much on his plate to start. And the primary focus is really offense right now. Okay. Yeah, let's take him in the 3rd, man.
Yep.
No problem. But I don't want to like just endlessly chase hype. Kind of manufactured, self-reinforcing fantasy football community hype. And I do think I protected myself a little bit from that with so that's one thing, for next year as well. Like I want to do that again. That I'm already enjoying having done that. And I did that on Matthew Golden as well, less so because in part I was like, I'm gonna just take Hunter instead of Golden. Like this, like they used to go next to each other for a while. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna take Hunter because he could rise like a lot more.
He was like not an impossible shot at the number 1 overall pick, and Matthew Golden was like, is he gonna go in the 1st? Obviously he did, and whatever. But it was like, these are very different.
These are different
ranges. Yeah.
I did that with like Ridley, who I thought would rise based on Cam Ward, so there are these guys now where I'm like, I'm actually not fading this dude from a entire offseason perspective. I just might be light on them. I'll be light on them overall probably because I'm going to draft way more in the post-draft period and the pre-draft period, but it's not like this mega stance against this guy. So yeah, I think Hunter probably does rise from here. I don't expect us to cool off. We'll probably fall behind ADP a little bit. But obviously I'm open to, if there's real news, like beat report stuff, coach quotes, that's the entire coach quotes that I actually go and listen to as opposed to just taking a face value on Twitter, that I'm like, yeah, okay, this really does seem pointing in the direction of he's going to play primarily offense for maybe his entire rookie season and play like a normal amount of offensive snaps, or at least close to normal, like 70% route participation. Like he's kind of like in a Kadarius Toney level role, but for the Giants, but like with that or better, like level of targets per out run, where they're just like, when you're on the field, we are designing plays that have you as the first read, not even just like screens and stuff, but like real NFL routes, but you're the first read. And then you're an incredible target earner. So your targets per out run is gonna be like 28% out of the gate, or peaking at that or something in his rookie season. So he's just a really, really, really tricky player, but not one that I've been willing. As soon as there's been real movement towards him playing offense, I'm just like, I'm not fading this.
Yep.
This guy could be awesome.
I'm with you. First, your points about the pre-draft cycle are really well said, and something to remember for next spring when we're the Super Bowl just finishes and we're already talking about 2026 drafts and just being like,
but like CLV there, I don't give a shit about the CLV so much. It's like CLV relative to this tournament, and then what allows me to think about like, well, I've got a bag of Travis Hunter in the big board, so I'll be okay if he hits.
If he hits, like you can still win 6 figures, right? It's like you'll be happy, So just like from a mental health standpoint, right? It's like which guys, if they shoot way up, from this price after the draft, am I comfortable with the amount of exposure that I have to them? And I'm not going to right. I don't feel the need to chase it because I'm about to get buried. This dude's going to body bag me because I don't have enough of him. He's like the king of that. Also, shout out Coach Speak Index for what you're saying. A great resource for anybody.
Great resource.
On all the social media platforms, and also has a premium Discord sharing. I mean, absolutely everything about what coaches are doing and right, and what it means, how which coaches lie, right? Like that's the index part, right? Is like some coaches are very straightforward and almost always tell the truth, and some of them are saying, they could literally say, yeah, Travis Hunter's. I'm not saying this is Liam Cohen. I'm just saying some coaches would say, cough Sean Payton. Travis Hunter's going to play offense full time, and then week 1 he fucking plays defense full time. Like, you just so shout out.
I was looking in the Discord because I was checking the Broncos, but I had checked the Broncos, like it'd been a while since I checked them, and it had left me up like in the season, and it was just he said something about some player, and Coach Speak Index goes, he writes, Sean Payton has a 50% reliability rating on player usage. That's a coin flip.
Literal coin flip. He's the coach of the team.
Like that. If it's like lower than that, then you should just like fade whatever he says. Like it's like literally meaningless.
You are almost as good off taking that $25 you're about to put on your Best Ball Mania team, going to the casino and putting it on red, as you are betting on what Sean Payton is saying about his own players.
His own players.
He drafted and he coaches. Like that's truly insane. So that's the difference. He's a total liar. So whatever
you know what? He's not even a liar. He just likes to talk, and he just likes to like kind of wax poetically about his guys and stuff. And it's like, it's kind of like on you. Like, I think he would say, like, it's on you if you take like what I'm saying as like indicative of anything. I'm just having a fun time up here.
Yeah. And like calling Pat Bryant the next Michael Thomas. Like, every running
we did
back
raise Pat Bryant on that. I'm not gonna lie, but
I mean, he also won the 3rd round. It's not like he called the 7th rounder Michael Thomas. He also invested in it. Same with RJ Harvey. Every running back is Alvin Kamara, and every wide receiver is Michael Thomas. And you'll get in the occasional Drew Brees tossed in there. But yeah, but you learn that, right? Over probably trusting some of these guys too much, and Coach Speak Index is great for that if you're not up to speed on a lot of these coaches. But I did just want to, like, the Travis Hunter thing, I actually think it's like kind of like straightforward's not the right term, but like everybody just has to decide at what point do you want to chase this, and at what price are you still comfortable chasing this scenario with like serious levels of like, the risk isn't just like, this guy's coming off an injury, right? We'll probably talk about some of those guys, the Godwins, the Diggs, the Aiyuks, whatever, right? Like, or an old player, right? Like, is Keenan Allen going to retire, or is he going to sign, right? Or whatever. Like, it isn't like that kind of risk. It's like, is he going to play offense? How much is he going to play offense? Because like, there's legit paths that I'm not saying this is what I'm predicting. I'm just throwing out tons of different scenarios that can happen. They get to camp. He is practicing with both sides of the football, and the DB coach is like, Liam, this dude is the best corner I've ever seen in my entire life. We need to have him play defense. And he's like, well, he's good on offense too. They're like, find packages for him on offense. He's a Pro Bowl corner right now, and they just change, right? Like, things can happen in camp. Coaches can see things and change some things, right? They could.
In season, he could be doing much better.
Starting corner goes down, right?
Goes down.
He's a rotational corner to start, and then the Jags are down 2 corners. It's like, well, now Hunter maybe is going to be more limited on offense.
Are they going up against like a run funnel defense and a really good passing offense? And it's just like, this game plan works a lot better with Hunter on defense, and we're going to lean on the run game this week anyway, and. Week to week, it could be bad. Gretsch has made this point too. It's like week to week, we could be looking at just an incredibly difficult situation to project and a really frustrating situation for fantasy.
Does make him the epitome of a better in best ball pick. If I don't know which side of the ball he's going to play week to week, deciding when to start him in your managed league sounds very painful unless you get points for tackles and interceptions and stuff like that.
What I'd say though is like, so this is supposed to be most polarizing players, not riskiest players. And
Yeah.
who's going to take, like, we're kind of looking around. I don't see anyone taking the opposite side of this because Hunter, in some ways, is kind of like a film guy. You know,
Yeah.
if you think about
Correct.
his analytical profile, it's not as strong as you'd expect from a production metrics point of view from a guy who just went number 2 overall.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone knows why. It's because he was also playing cornerback. He wasn't really game planning as a receiver. And
the big thing that I've seen a lot of, and I this is not wrong, right? But what I've seen people latch onto is the way Colorado plays offense.
right, he had to play
wide,
with a day 3 quarterback.
4 wide. I mean,
Are we allowed to say that yet? Is that
what
is that
you wouldn't know? Yeah, his quarterback was drafted after
play
Dylan
held him back.
Gabriel. He's basically Graham Mertz was Shador is what we've learned. The NFL values him about the same as Graham Mertz, who got benched.
I mean, honestly, at this
Florida.
point, we should probably discuss that as a potential upside component to Hunter's
that's
profile.
True. That's very, very true. But right, they played 4 wide receivers. He played the outside, and that naturally, lessens your like targets per route run. It was a bullshit gimmick offense. They run a high school air raid. They run like 6 plays, right? So there's a lot of designed screens to other guys. LeJonte Webster got the designed, quick screens or whatever. Travis Hunter did not. So the argument would be his analytical profile got dragged down a little bit by that, which is a totally fair point.
I think everyone's on board with that. Like, it's
Yeah.
not, you're not seeing a lot of like analytics guys being like, the yards per team pass attempt were so low. It's like, yeah, because he played cornerback, man. Like, everyone knows. So I'm just like wondering who's breaking ranks on Travis Hunter as like a risky, because the kind of the rank and file position is he's very risky, of course, but he's also the upside so high and things are moving in a positive direction, and he's worth the risk. I like who's losing this game of chicken? Is it you? You're breaking ranks?
I have him ranked 50th overall. I think it's possible. That's a tick low, but like,
make the
I just
bear
think
case.
So obviously all the things that we talked about there, but let's just even envision the scenario where he's trying to play both ways, right? Even it works. He's awesome at both. Okay. He's 6 foot, 185 pounds. He's Garrett Wilson size. This is not. I actually think somebody made this. I forget who it was. I totally apologize. In the Spike Week Discord about like, I think everybody thinks Hunter's a lot bigger than he is. Like, because he won the Heisman, he plays both ways. He's long and like rangy athlete or whatever. They're like, I think that they think he's like 6'3", 200 or something. And it's like, he's 6 foot, 185 or something like that, right? So he's not that big.
I think he's 6'1", but yeah, he's not heavy.
He's not a big dude, right? He's basically Garrett Wilson. He's like, him and Garrett Wilson are very similar sized guys. And
he's 6 foot 3/8. So yeah, he's 6 foot.
So he's not that big, which is just at wide receiver. We don't get that many 6 foot 100 or 6'1", 100 sub 190 pound wide receivers that just like go scorched earth fantasy. Like it's a somewhat.
But this isn't the corner. Like he was 188. It is. I guess this is the combine or his pro day. Whenever he officially weighed in, he was 188, and like what Justin Jefferson, I guess 202. What was CeeDee Lamb? Some of these guys are like in the 190s. The like 195 range. If he was 195, we wouldn't be saying this. And part of it to me is like, was he a little skinnier because he was playing
6'2", 200 is CeeDee. That's a pretty
Jefferson. What about
difference.
Was Lamb? I feel like CeeDee Lamb was just kind of in that range.
Jefferson 6'1", 195.
Lamb was 198, 6'1", 5/8. So he's like 6'2", 198. So he's a little smaller, but it's
10
not
pounds.
like,
it's 5% more. That's a 5% bigger human.
Yeah, but he was playing cornerback,
right? And he's going to play cornerback in the NFL in this scenario.
Fair.
So that's
Jerry Jeudy was 193, 6'1", 193.
The point isn't to say 185 pound wide receiver like can't do anything. It's the whole Hunter bull case or bear case is the compounding effect of all the different risks. in any one of these risk things that you
yeah.
bring up, you can besmirch it, right? Easily. I can. 185. What, dude? I drafted Malik Washington, and like I've drafted Tutu Atwell before. Like I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not. That's not. But it's like, okay, so he's small. They traded up for him thing. It's like they didn't trade up for him only because he's a wide receiver. His main level of value is this whole profile that he has, right? Which includes playing corner. Okay, so they're probably they're going to play him a bunch of wide receiver, but they're going to play him at least some corner, maybe a bunch of corner. Also, just recently, right before the draft, Travis Hunter does an interview where he's asked about teams that wouldn't let him play both ways, and he says, "quote I'd quit football if they don't let me play." He was just that's taken slightly out of context. He was just like basically emphasizing like I really want to play both ways. He chose his words poorly, but it wasn't some big deal. But that also, after you see the Shador and Dion and Colorado nonsense, you're like, maybe these guys should get some fucking media training with all the money that Colorado has. So anyway, so like he wants to play both ways. He's made that known. We talked about that all spring. Like this dude wants to play both ways. That was part of the Travis Hunter story. So it's like, okay, the team traded up for him. He wants to do it. You would think that there's some kind of agreement that he's going to play, or at least give him a shot, right? All right, so small.
Well, not even agreement, but just like at this point, you're like that. It just doesn't make sense to give up what you gave up if that's not the plan.
Correct. Agreed. So it's just like, and again, it's not any one of these things in a vacuum. It's all right. He's probably going to play at least some kind of corner. Who knows how much? He's not that big. The analytical profile, as you mentioned, while we can nitpick the fact that they played 4 wide receivers, blah blah blah. It's like, and he played with a future XFL quarterback. Like we can nitpick all of those different things.
Yeah,
but
I mean, if you'd had Dylan Gabriel, then I'm sure it would have been fine.
Imagine if Dylan Gabriel was his quarterback, and you took Cam Ward over him, you would be an absolute moron. I can't believe Dylan Gabriel went. We were live during that. We did a day 2 stream. I thought I was going to like piss my pants laughing so hard that the Browns took it was like every time the Steelers came on the clock and the Browns came on the clock and whatever, you were just like, okay, it's happening. Right. And then somebody was ahead of us in the chat and was like, well, they took a quarterback. And I was like, at first I'm like, okay, Shador. Because I had a couple cocktails. And I'm like, okay, Shador. And I'm like, wait, he would have said Shador.
Yeah.
And then so I prepped myself and I was like, I don't know what name I was expecting, but it wasn't fucking Dylan Gabriel. I'll tell you that much. So that was hilarious. So anyway, just a couple other quick things. So also think about like you want to really get your hand in the dirt. I mentioned he came from this what Travis Hunter did in college was go play backyard football because you're the best player on the field, right? Like if you go watch him play defense, he kind of just does his own shit out there, which is great because he's amazing at it. Like he's also incredibly intelligent, not just athletic.
Yeah.
But like they just said, like we used to call it in college, like, cat coverage. Like you got this cat, I got that cat, you got this cat. That's like what Travis Hunter did. He just walked out, like go ball out, dude. And on offense, like I said, they run like a fucking middle school air raid offense. He runs like it's again just like go be Travis Hunter, Shador. Shador. Travis is down there somewhere. Like get him the ball.
Yeah, although like he was off the charts in Matt Harmon's charting, so I don't think it's not like.
I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm saying from a learning an NFL offense is going to be different than learning his Colorado offense.
Yeah, but it's not like he needs to learn. This isn't a bet on athleticism or something. Like he's got legit wide receiver skills as a route runner.
No argument. But when you have a playbook that's like this, I'm talking about mental load.
Yeah.
Playbook that looks like this, reading adjustments, checks, being on the same page with your quarterback, reading defenses from within a playbook that now has hundreds of plays is just it. I'm not saying he can't do it. He's like I said, he's a really smart kid. He's going to be able to do it. But I'm saying he has to do that on offense, and now he has to do that on defense. So this dude's going to double meetings and learning 2 different playbooks, and every single week he has to now learn 2 different game plans, right? And it's like, that's just, there's only so many hours in the day. He's also got to get treatment. He's also got to practice. He's also got, media responsibilities and endorsements. It's like, this is a lot of shit for him to learn. Again, I trust he's going to be able to do it. I'm just saying, okay, there's, pillar number 5 of the bear case. And then take all that and let's talk about the physical toll. That's where I was going to go with the size thing. It's like, okay, so he's not that big anyway. Now we're going to play him 100 snaps, 120 snaps. How many NFL snaps is he playing? Guys get hurt playing part-time roles at his size all the time. Big guys get hurt in the NFL. It's like, so we're gonna take this, even if he bulks up a little bit, 195-pound dude playing 120 snaps every Sunday for fucking 18 weeks, not counting the preseason, not counting training camp for months. Like just the injury risk is higher on a player doing that. He didn't really get hurt in college, although he did get banged up a couple times. He missed a couple games. It's like, and then what happens if he gets banged up? Now what do? Do they scale back? Which side of the ball do they scale back on? It's like, it's just all of those different risk factors that are like, I would love to have Travis Hunter on my teams, but given all of that, like, I mean, like I said, like I'm seeing screenshots of pick 35.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
The FOMO's crazy. Everybody is feeling FOMO about Travis Hunter because he's so fun and he's so excited. But I at that point, for me, if he's Jamar Chase reincarnated, so be it. I've made worse fades. I faded Saquon Barkley last year. What's the fucking difference?
Yeah. I mean, part of it too is that because Brian Thomas goes there, I think but I wonder if Thomas starts to fall like a little. I think he'll probably settle at the 1-2 turn, but then that makes it more likely that Hunter's likely to be there at the 1-2 turn, or
Right.
Sorry, the 3-4 turn.
3-4 turn, yeah.
And you pair them up, and it's kind of nice that way. But we've seen players become decoupled from each other as well pretty easily. So it's like that's not that effect doesn't have that. That effect isn't that strong, but I think right now that's partly why you're seeing some of the 35 is. I'm like, I don't think I would do that. But like, actually, I would if I had Thomas, and I'm like, I can just do the double. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, that's about as high. If I don't have Thomas, then I think 4th round is where I become interested. And if he were to, let's say, like settle into the middle of the 3rd round, that's like, all right, the upside is that he's Garrett Wilson, but what if I just take Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, my ceiling case is literally this guy who is now behind
him. Also available.
Yeah. Doesn't play with Brian Thomas Jr. He plays with Alan Lazard.
Yeah.
Okay, Lawrence is better than Fields, but like by how much? Yeah, it's interesting. I like the Jags point though to like the polarizing part of it. It's like, all right, even if we were to agree, like maybe this price is a little bit rich. We've talked about this with like the chaperone type stuff. He can still have a place and just be like, no, he's awesome. Brian Thomas is awesome. Liam Cohen is awesome. Trevor Lawrence finds it, and you're just like, just give me I just want Jag stacks, right? And this is the way that Trevor Lawrence is just a stone cold smash because BTJ and Hunter are both awesome.
Yeah, I mean Lawrence is a target right now for sure.
Definitely.
If I'm taking a rookie wide receiver in the middle of the 3rd, I'm gonna lean to T-Mac. That's one of the guys that is also polarizing out of this class. And I think the landing spot made him polarizing in a way because it's not like if he had gone to the Cowboys, it would have been comfier in some ways for best ball where, with T-Mac on the Cowboys, he's not going to be the number 1 target, but he immediately slots in as the clear number 2. He's very projectable. He's very safe. We expect, decent enough play. We would also upgrade the Cowboys offense a little bit in our minds for that selection. And now, we see, I'm assuming they did a similar thing at running back, not much. So it's like, man, this offense is completely built around these 2 receivers now. And where we don't have the mega ceiling this year and, certainly for year 2 and 3, it's really year 2 and 3 that a landing spot like the Cowboys would start to show up versus the Panthers, where you're thinking like, can you now break into being one of the best wide receivers in the entire league, having a top 5 ADP kind of thing. That's where sharing a team, sharing a depth chart with CeeDee Lamb would really start to hurt. I don't think it would really hurt him. His upside for this year would be like a little lower, not like a ton lower for what we expect from a rookie wide receiver. I think it'd be fine. But because he's on the Panthers, Bryce Young got benched last year and didn't get his job back until Andy Dalton got in a car accident. I know he looked better down the stretch, but it was really, really rough. And that creates a low floor. We also have Tet McMillan, who's got some reasons to wonder if his production is going to translate, if his production was inflated by playing at a weaker program, not a ton of target competition, not the toughest strength of schedule. There are ways where if we look back and we're like, oh, this dude was a bust, it would seem like there were reasons to worry
Definitely.
about it. So he's not like a super boom bust prospect, and I'm generally a believer, but there is some downside to his profile, and then you add downside potentially with Bryce Young, and just kind of the offense in general could be kind of like run heavy. Like, oh, Bryce Young still kind of stinks. Let's just run it, go through the run game. And Tet's having trouble like out targeting Adam Thielen. Like, I took this guy in the 30s. So like
it's quite similar without the defensive player risk. I don't have the Jags level risk, but in terms of like very real risk, and I love T-Mac. I've been a huge fan for the last couple of years. I'm a big college football DFS guy, and he was just like an absolute printing press. And it doesn't help his profile to the points that you made, but I'm like really stubbornly love the dudes who stay at their school. Like T-Mac could have gone literally anywhere. It's just like Genty could have gone anywhere. But he was a 0-star recruit, and Boise took the shot on him, and he was like, no, he could have gone to Bama or Georgia or wherever. Like, he was better than Quinshon Judkins. Ohio State took Judkins because they couldn't get Genty. It's like he could have done anything, and he stayed. So and by all accounts, like some of the concerns that people have about him is like, he said in it again, media training for these kids. He said he was a volleyball player first, then a football player second in an interview, and that like rubbed the boomer NFL teams wrong, where they're like, does he really love football and all that kind of stuff? It's like, no.
When did he say that?
It's in some like interview or something like that. What's his name? Peter Schrager was talking about that. He said he was a volleyball.
But he said that like as of now. What do you mean?
Like he grew. I don't have the context.
Like when he was growing up. That's what I was hoping. But I'm like,
he was. But
how
he
much
was like
volleyball is he playing, Eric?
He was like an All-American. Apparently, a lot. Big sand volleyball guy is team. I have no idea. I fucking hope not. His agent would.
When did this stop?
If he's playing, I've seen someone tear their ACL in person playing sand volleyball.
Oh man!
If T-Mac's doing it at the local bar or whatever, that would be funny. But I guess he was like a huge high school volleyball player.
Okay, that's fine.
And he loves it, I guess, so whatever. But these are like generally real questions, even with the player that I love. I am very encouraged by what Bryce Young did down the stretch, but I'm also generally very weary of any like small sample, whether it be resurgence or decline, especially if the market is like throwing it out the window. Right? Like, yeah, fuck that year and a half of the 5'8" quarterback being the worst quarterback in the NFL. Those 6 games, brother. Did you watch those? He almost beat the Eagles. If Xavier Leggett could catch a goddamn football, Bryce Young would have marched right down the field and beat the Eagles, which it was impressive, by the way. And He did look good. But it's like, you can always turn back into a pumpkin. And so I have very real concerns about him. But to the polarizing part, on again, we're doing devil's advocate to all of these different guys. It's like, if T-Mac is good and Bryce is the Bryce down the stretch, there ain't nothing stopping this dude from fucking scorched earth season. Like, the defense is horrible. The Panthers defense is going to be just as bad again. They're theoretically going to have to throw a bunch. And if he's good, I mean, Adam Thielen is whatever. There's nobody stopping him from a million targets. And like I said, it's just like, it's really, to me, almost as simple, other than the Bryce fact of like, can this dude really play? Because he'll be great if he can play.
I was listening to Ben Solak and Mina Kimes, and they were talking about the fit with Bryce Young and how it's both kind of a good fit, because there's like a little bit of that backyard football element.
Bryce can actually see him.
Bryce can see him, right? He's big enough for Bryce to see, which is important. But also, like, some of that backyard football element is actually something that Tet's used to. That then they kind of came to that Bryce Young is the Noah Fafita of the NFL.
Yes, he is. They play the same way. They're both fucking terrible. It's It's crazy. He's very
this
used
good?
to playing with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was his high school quarterback. He's played
Right.
with Fafita for his whole life.
So he's pretty. Yeah, he should adapt well to a subpar quarterback situation. And then who knows? Maybe Bryce Young's actually good. I kind of think he's gonna top out as being like a usable starter type, but you know,
Teddy Bridgewater, something like that.
yeah,
Like kind
you
of
know,
like
like if Teddy
ego.
Bridgewater doesn't blow out his knee,
Right.
mobile, something like that. But that's okay. Like I think he can support. Again, this was where you get to like the concern about what Bryce Young can be from a ceiling perspective is probably a conversation that's better suited for 2026 or 2027. Where we think about like, is Bryce Young good enough to support like the wide receiver 3 overall? Like,
Right.
is that realistic or that? But that's more like when we're having to take Tet McMillan in the middle of the second round or something. I think in the third round, especially at these prices where you get to like, Garrett Wilson, we talked about. I think McMillan's ceiling is higher than, I think he could easily beat out Garrett Wilson this year because of the ability to command targets, where Hunter's more difficult to see because it's like, how does he command enough targets, with Brian Thomas there? And does he play enough? And my ceiling, one of my ceiling comps for him is literally this guy. But like Wilson has to play with Justin Fields in an offense that's probably not going to be very pass heavy, even though he'll be the clear number one. Tet McMillan gets to be the clear number one in an offense that might have to pass a ton.
Yeah.
And be more willing to kind of let Bryce Young like run around and do some stuff. So when you look at like him versus Wilson or him versus JSN, where it's like, all right, I get Darnold, that's not any better. It's easy enough from a ceiling perspective to think like who in this third round can just be dominating targets down the stretch in like a really impressive way, like that gives you both a ceiling and a floor. I mean, McMillan really stands out. Marvin Harrison's a guy that I am still in on. I think in part because I can see that actually. McBride is going to get his to an extent, but he could carve out a bigger slice of that pie, I think, in year 2. But even guys, like Terry McLaurin, like he's not going to be dominating targets. It's more of like he'll have his clear number one target share, but he isn't going to be like one of these target dominant alphas. He's more of a deep threat with a really good quarterback. T. Higgins is in this range, like unless Chase gets hurt, that's not happening. So there is, with the wide receiver pricing, it's just tougher to find. We're already to the point where we're talking about like wide receiver 2s in the third round. And at the end of the season, I do think Tet McMillan can be like a wide receiver 1. They got probably on the low end wide receiver 1, probably or mid range, but I don't know. I mean, I think if he's really good, there's just so much opportunity for him here. Well-designed offense, sufficient quarterback play. I think the ceiling is quite high in a range of wide receivers where we're kind of already like the ceiling feels a little picked over by the time you get to the middle of the third round.
I mean, we keep drafting Drake London at the 1-2 turner in the early to mid parts of the second round, and it's the same bet, except we know we have more confidence that Drake London is good because we've seen the track record. So I also just like, we talked about this like a million times, but with rookies in general, particularly high draft capital rookies, unless you're like I can't even think of an individual because this has a second round pick. I was going to say Jalen Polk because the Patriots are somewhat polarizing to me this year, although they're probably not polarizing to you because you're just going to fucking draft all of them. But
correct.
You just get right. Like even if T-Max sucks, he's going to play. Like they have no other choice. Like what are you going to?
Well, he's also the 8th overall pick.
Yeah.
That's the thing too. Like
this isn't one of the other rookies, which we'll of course talk. Maybe we can do that. Matthew Golden. This isn't Matthew Golden, who I am intrigued by, but like this is the 8th overall pick. That is Drake London, right? That is like no. This is our dude, right? And so even if you can't really play, you don't come off the field because that's just how the NFL works.
There's also this weird like anti Tetairoa McMillan psyop that happened before the draft, where like Todd McShay had him 50th, and it's like this guy. The idea that he'd go top 10 is absurd. Like no, it's not absurd. He did go top 10, and it's pretty clear the Cowboys would have taken him ahead of Golden at 12. There were, it's not like the Panthers went rogue. Like he was actually quite valued, and he wasn't like as efficient maybe as like some of the ultra elite guys, but finished up with 2.87 yards per route run at 2.79 the year before. He's a 3-year guy. He was very productive over 3 seasons. He was a big time recruit. He could have transferred, like you were saying, to other schools. Like at no point was this guy slept on. He decided to go to Arizona because that's where his best friend was going, and he wanted to keep playing with his best friend who played quarterback. So
they have a big Hawaiian. He's also they have a big. There's cultural reasons to go to school. Like if you ever watch the coach wears the lei and stuff on the sideline and everything.
Yeah.
So he valued less of a payday for some off the field, intangible things.
Yeah. And he finishes up with a 44% dominator rating. Absolutely ridiculous. It is you do want to consider the strength of schedule, and the team was not good and all that. It could have been, kind of best of bad options, but he had a 31% dominator rating the year before. And as a true freshman was at 25%. So this dude has been, and yards per team pass attempt 3.02 for back-to-back seasons to close his career. Like this is a really good prospect. And some of the nits that people have picked with like that video of him like saying he doesn't watch tape and stuff, which was like from 3 years ago and was a super silly thing to be taken seriously in the first place. That's where the draft capital really comes in and goes like, don't get tricked by that dumb shit, because he wouldn't have gone 8th overall if there were concerns about his interest in watching film, his commitment to the game of football. Like he just doesn't go 8th overall like that. We saw Luther Burden fall out of the first round for concerns about stuff like that. So I don't know. I mean, you can ding him for that if you want, but I think to me that just feels like a bias. Like he's
right.
Yeah.
We keep joking about Shedeur. That's what happens when teams have real risk about you and your commitment and your attitude and who you are as a person, right? Yep. Like you don't go 8th.
You don't go 8th. You don't go 8th overall.
Let's actually do Burden, because I think I want to do Burden and Golden. We can like wrap our kind of the rookies up there, like maybe slightly quicker. I know we
rookie wide receivers anyway.
On Travis, rookie wide receivers. The rookie running backs. That's maybe a whole nother episode. But Burden, it to me is both polarizing himself and as a collective part of the Bears offense, and that's several guys we'll talk about here today. Where Burden himself was coming into this year, like coming into his final season at Mizzou, like him and T-Mac were the dudes. They were the like, oh yeah, these two guys are first round picks. They're going to rock. For anybody that plays college football, DFS, they were wide receivers 1 and wide receivers 2 in like college football. It was hilariously Ollie Gordon, running back 1, T-Mac and Luther Burden. So Luther Burden was at least more directionally accurate than old Ollie Gordon was. But he did have a pretty brutal final year at Mizzou. We've covered that a lot over the course of several episodes. You can go back to the rookie wide receiver and tight end one, where we really expressed our cautions around Luther Burden and the types of targets that he got and just the general lack of productivity in his final year. So that gets reflected. There's a lot of attitude, and commitment concerns and off the field concerns for Luther Burden. So on one hand, he falls to the second, and that is concerning. On the other hand, he still was a second round pick wide receiver. So it's not like it wasn't Shedeur. It wasn't something like that. And he lands with the Chicago Bears. Keenan Allen is gone. Granted, they took Colston Loveland, but Ben Johnson is now with Chicago. They revamped the offensive line. And as bad as he was last year, Caleb Williams was the number 1 overall pick in the draft the year prior. We will get to DJ Moore
and a prospect we all really liked, and we're excited.
And we really liked. And we'll get, add some DJ Moore and Rome Odunze and stuff commentary as a part of this. But there's reasons to believe neither of those guys are like stars at this point. I think I might like DJ Moore a little more than the market seems to. There's a serious DJ Moore, anti-DJ Moore campaign going on, which I somewhat understand. But then it's like, okay, so if DJ Moore's not that good and maybe doesn't love football, apparently, it's what maybe he likes volleyball also. DJ Moore, big volleyball player. Him and T-Mac go to the bar on Tuesday nights.
Are they? He's not that tall. Is he a big volleyball guy?
He's the what's it, setter or whatever. DJ Moore sets it for T-Mac.
Yeah.
And Rome was terrible as a rookie. It's like, well, Luther Burden's a second round wide receiver that Ben Johnson clearly wanted, even though there were those concerns. Ben Johnson wanted him on his team. Like, which side are we going here with this? Like, I see all the angles of Luther Burden, and it's like, you put your brain in a pretzel, man. You could see this go disastrously, or like he's the fucking wide receiver 1 on the Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, awesome Bears offense. It's all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, so the more I've been thinking about this situation, I think, okay, you're Ben Johnson, you come into this offense, and it's like, first and foremost, we got to get the offensive line sorted out. We got to give Caleb Williams a chance here. He's going to be the type of quarterback who takes sacks at a bit of a higher rate and runs around and makes some mistakes trying to improvise. But he also can add some real magic that way. And yeah, maybe he's going to take a little bit longer to get the ball out than most guys, but let's like give him the protection so that he maybe has a little more time, and we're going to have a better designed offense around him. And that they do that really well. You know, we're all feeling much better about the offensive line. You come in as Ben Johnson, you take that job because of Caleb Williams. So Caleb Williams, what happened last year isn't Caleb Williams' fault, right? You know, he's the Robin Williams. He's got Matt Damon. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. We're gonna get you an offensive line, right? But if it's not his fault, whose fault is it? Partly it's the offensive line's fault, but it's also the fault of the weapons around him. And you look at the efficiency of any Bears weapons. Yards per route run last year, DJ Moore led the team, 1.44. That's not impressive. Keenan Allen was second. Keenan Allen is not signed. There, you know, that not good enough, but also second on the team at 1.36. Rome Odunze was at 1.18. Okay, he only saw 96 targets. Keenan Allen was at 117. So he didn't distance himself from an unsigned, washed veteran, and he also was less efficient, 1.18 yards per route run. DeAndre Swift was fourth at 1.09. Cole Kmet, 0.91. And then everyone else on the entire team was below 0.9. So it was just a disaster. I mean, if you look at, we just talked about Tetairoa McMillan and the situation that he's walking into. Highest guy on the team there was Adam Thielen at 2.06. He was actually still decently efficient. Xavier Legette was Jalen Coker was second at 1.72, and Xavier Legette was at 1.19. So you're looking at like a rookie season from Rome Odunze that purely from yards per route run was less impressive than Xavier Legette, and they were in a similar amount of targets. Legette had 81, so fewer, but you know, I'm not saying that Rome is Xavier Legette, but I am saying that if I'm Ben Johnson,
you heard it here first. You heard it here first. Rome Odunze, Xavier Legette, baby.
If I'm Ben Johnson, I think maybe I didn't think he was in this mindset, but what I'm trying to like figure out what he's doing, and I think he's just like, I'm not counting on anything other than Caleb Williams is good. That's the only thing I'm betting on. When I take this job, I'm taking it because Caleb Williams is a quarterback. He's a guy I can build around. I'm not going to let that project fail because I liked Rome Odunze coming out, or I liked DJ Moore a couple years ago. You know, I'm going to give this guy like everything he could possibly ask for, so that I don't have any questions about like, was I wrong that Caleb Williams is the guy? Like, I'm going to make sure that if he's what I think he is, we're going to find out. And that's where you bring in Colston Loveland, you bring in Luther Burden. I mean, it's kind of, as much as I thought he would replace DeAndre Swift, because I think he hates him. I think even comments after the draft seems like he kind of hates him. But like, credit to Ben Johnson for like putting that hate, bearing it, pushing it down, and getting weapons who actually matter for your quarterback more than the running back, right? Like, getting a Luther Burden raises the ceiling of this offense more than, you know, reaching for a running back in the second round or whatever, you know? So all this to say, I really don't think it's crazy for Luther Burden to be the number 1 wide receiver down the stretch here. Like these dudes just didn't do enough last year. There's no reason for Ben Johnson to be committed to DJ Moore as the number 1 guy unless he like really bounces back, but like bounces back given what opportunity? Like what is the week 1 game plan look like? Is it featuring more, or is, it kind of spread out a little bit as he's trying to figure out what they have? They're going to be incorporating Colston Loveland. They're going to be incorporating Burden to a degree. And I could see as the season goes on, them being like, yeah, we're getting what we hoped for out of Burden. He's awesome after the catch. We're going to keep putting more and more on his plate. Whenever their bye week is coming out of the bye, we could be excitedly playing Burden in DFS. He's starting to emerge as like the number 1 dude. Adunze's fine, but he's like kind of, a more like good NFL player than like a big fantasy guy. Moore's role starts to get eaten a bit more by Burden every week. So, I mean, there's like real upside in this situation that you might not think there would be given like the target competition, but these dudes they kind of all fell on their face last year. So the target competition might be like name brand built more than reality built at this point. However, it's also DJ Moore, who we've liked for years, and Rome Odunze, who was a top 10 pick last year, and Burden fell to the second round because of like work ethic concerns and stuff, and like off the field,
shit final season,
and a shit final season.
It wasn't just right. He wasn't very good and had concerns, so there's double whammy.
And his kind of gadget player, issues, and like maybe, like he could struggle to establish like a meaningful role. He could be like kind of a Kadarius Toney Chiefs sort of situation.
Get ready to learn Olamide Zaccheaus, Luther. Get ready.
Yeah, or like Jameson Wood. He could be like Jameson Williams, and it's like they add more and more to his plate, but like over the course of 3 years,
right?
Not over the course of this season.
Burden also a great candidate to be gambling on basketball FanDuel at the facility. God, like JMO.
Put that out there,
they're both from here. Okay, they're both from St. Louis. Wide receivers, huge prospects, and morons. Okay, so like immature morons. So like there's a lot of parallels between the JMO arc. So maybe he is good, but like you said, 3 years down the road, maybe.
Yeah. So that's where this is just such an extremely wide range of outcomes. Right now, I think Moore is pretty much untouchable in drafts. I mean, his ADP is 36. That's absurd. That's got to fall. I think Rome Odunze is a fade, although closer to what we have him at 60. His ADP is down to 56. So he's not a target really, but he's at least kind of in the range where I don't hate it. And then Burden we have as a slight target, 83 compared to a ADP of 87. So I think Moore, I don't really understand why Moore hasn't fallen more, but look, I don't know how this is going to play out, but I think one of these guys is going to be like a total bust for fantasy. I don't see the offense being able to support like 3 guys with a top 90 ADP.
Happen. It
doesn't really happen.
One or 2 guys bust and 1 or 2 guys hit. It's just how.
Plus Colston Loveland's in the top 120.
Right,
so,
I would include him as the 3 wide receivers plus Loveland. Like 1 or 2 of those are going to be nice hits, and 1 or 2 of them are going to be disasters.
Yeah. So, given the ADP, I think it's okay to bet on Rome. I'm not touching Moore. And I think Burden's interesting. I think Loveland's kind of interesting too. But it's all price dependent. Like if Burden went up another 10 picks, to be like, oh, geez. I don't think so. And then Caleb is nice. You can do that. He's got more stackable. So that's nice, I guess. But yeah, it's just I would, if I felt good about all the prices, my advice would be like to spread it out, because I really don't have a good read on how this pans out. You can make like, I think, pretty extreme bull and bear cases for everybody.
Yep.
But as of right now, do you have a sense for why Moore is still going at the 3-4 turn?
See, so I like a lot more than you do. Everything about the Bear case, I agree with, is defensible, understandable, all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm not trying to dispel all of that, but as you were laying out that case, right, and it's clearly totally agree with it. Part of the point was Caleb's fine, right? Is part of the assumptions around this is like Caleb's fine, and we're going to take steps from here. And the terrible season last year is kind of being lifted off of Caleb and
Off
the
of
coaching
Caleb.
and the
Right.
coaching.
Well, because you're Ben Johnson, so of course it's the coaching's fault,
Right?
and you
From
took the
Ben
job, so it
Johnson's,
can't be Caleb.
but from
Yeah.
fantasy,
From
bro,
you-
and
yeah.
from DJ Moore's perspective,
Right.
you know, he's like, did you see what I was working with? And look, this is totally just, you know, tangential, not anything. But as someone who did continue to believe in the Bears from a DFS perspective, watch those games and tell me that Caleb Williams wasn't any part of the problem, or the offensive line wasn't any part of the problem. And so I think it is just as possible that DJ Moore, who just 2 years ago on this Bears team, playing with bad quarterback play for much of the season, if not the entire season. Well, what did he finish? 12th in yards per route run in the
2.31.
Amongst
Really
the
good.
NFL. Really, really good, right? So this is the company of Debo and Mike Evans and Rashee Rice. And this was when Amari Cooper wasn't completely dust. AJ Brown was 2.52, right? DJ Moore was 2.31. This is better than DeAndre Hopkins and Chris Olave and DK Metcalf and Jamar Chase and Devontae Adams, right? This is elite company. Now, nobody was quite Tyreek Hill that year. By the way, looking back at this, it always floors me every single time. 3.72 yards per route run in the fucking NFL is just absolutely unbelievable. So 2 years ago, we had a borderline elite wide receiver, right? Call it whatever you want to call it. He was great. Let's use great.
Yeah.
He was a great wide receiver. He has been very good, at least, for his entire career in shit situations, right? He went from Carolina to Chicago. I don't know if anybody remembers the Carolina years. Like, the best quarterback he played with was like, did he have Cam at the very beginning? But it was Teddy, like Teddy Bridgewater. This dude had, this is before Darnold, you know, had resurged. This dude had Darnold and like Kyle Allen.
Yeah,
and
man.
like it was disastrous, and still was like his efficiency was not to the level of 2 years ago, but was like, we all thought DJ Moore was good.
He had
right?
2.23 yards per route run in 2020.
Yeah, it's like
with Carolina.
We've believed he was
2.03 the year before.
This is not Devontae Adams, Mike Evans. He's not. He's 28. We're not treating any other 28-year-old the same way that we would treat DJ Moore, calling him cooked off of the one bad season. Which, again, if you think about Caleb and you think about the Bears, right? The Bears fired their coaches. They did this thing that you just said, brought Ben Johnson in and built everything around Caleb to give him the best opportunity to succeed, because he was disastrous as a rookie. It looks really bad having taken Caleb Williams over Jaden Daniels at this moment in time, right? I'm not saying the process was wrong. I'm just saying Bears fans are probably like, what the fuck, man? We got this guy and the Washington just went to the conference championship game. Like, that's absolutely insane. So I think there is a scenario. I'm not saying DJ Moore isn't cooked. I'm not saying he hates football now because he got mad last season. I'm saying, wouldn't you fucking get mad? Like, wouldn't you like don't we also like the Denny Carter, like, love our wide receivers to be a little bit of this diva bullshit? Like, that's what Diggs does. And that's, if you watch CeeDee Lamb play football, by the way, like, if he doesn't get the ball, he gets mad. It's easily explained away. I'm not saying that the explanations are actually true and that's what will happen. I'm just saying, what if DJ Moore is still fucking DJ Moore? And all of these things that we talked about with the offense, Caleb does improve. Ben Johnson is a big improvement. The offensive line is good. And Rome is this, like, Rome has never shown anything like DJ Moore has shown. Luther Burden, we just talked about all those concerns. I like Loveland quite a bit, actually. But, like, that's fine. Somebody else can eat. We're expecting the offense to be good. We moved Caleb Williams up in price after a horrible rookie season. Right? Like, we're more excited for Caleb Williams than we were last year. And we have evidence that maybe he's not that good. I think he is. I like him as well. But I just like the Bears. Like, I just like the Bears. Like, give me the Ben Johnson, good offensive line, year 2 Caleb Williams Bears, and DJ Moore, albeit was bad, was still their best receiver last year. And I don't have any evidence that Luther Burden is the guy that's gonna dethrone him. The offense takes a leap. We get normal what we've had DJ Moore for 5, 6, 7 years. Like, I think that if the Bears are good, if Caleb is good, like there's like a monster ceiling for DJ Moore. The risk is there, like all you've outlined, but I don't think he should go.
Is there a monster? I guess that's maybe part of it where I don't know that there's like a monster ceiling for anybody in the offense, and maybe I'm just not like being open-minded enough, but
your third eye as
third eye maybe isn't fully open on the like monster ceiling, because
yeah.
I think Colston Loveland is good, and they just took him 10th overall, and he's a big pass catcher.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Burden will get some design stuff at the very least, down the stretch. I think that Rome isn't like a guy he's not like a complete bust. He maybe is a very disappointing fantasy guy, but he's like, he'll be okay,
Mm-hmm.
And then
he's not going to have zero good games.
You're not going to have zero good games. And then Moore hasn't really been this like guy who's dominating. He has at times dominated targets, but usually with no target competition.
Yeah, Carolina but did. He had the Curtis Samuel, Robbie Anderson, CMC offenses. He was pretty goddamn good, and that's like awfully similar, except there's no Christian McCaffrey in in this.
But offense. He's been more
was maybe there. I think
he's been more of like an incredible spike week producer.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, even a couple years ago, that was one of those seasons where he was a very polarizing player. I remember like Leone's really down on him, and we were kind of high on the ceiling, and it's like we kind of everyone like went back to their corners at the end of the 100%. Round, because like he was like a pretty terrible pick in terms of like the median week, but like he had like a 50 burger, so we're like, see, that's what we were talking about. That's why we took him there.
Yep.
So it became, so he's peaked at. So his peak season in PPR points per game was 16.9 points back in 2023 with that field season, 15.4 with Carolina. So he just hasn't had a truly like massive ceiling at any point in his career. And given the target competition, I struggle to see him like reaching that massive ceiling. That's the part where I don't know that he has that in him, even if he hits, because you would need the offense to be like running through him, and it's hard for me to see that happening.
But also so best ball specific, right? I also think like not every pick has to be the guy that's going in the 3rd or 4th round that's a first round pick the next year, right?
Sure.
That's the case we've made against Mike. We make it against Mike Evans every single year. We made it against Terry McLaurin last year, and like
that's true.
Just like being
you can
really
stack
good,
hits at receiver.
You stack it, especially in this new. Yeah. Now it's a little bit better this year, so maybe that is a case against DJ Moore, the DJ Moores of the world. It's not just him, right? The guys that we'll talk about some of these other guys too, but like just like being the lead, not being a first round pick like CeeDee Lamb level dominator, but being like 2 years ago DJ Moore, but now this offense rocks. Right? It's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know exactly where he's going to finish amongst wide receivers in fantasy. I don't know, exactly how this is going to look. He's going to have a bunch of good games, and he's DJ Moore. And like you said, the 50 burger ceiling is there. Like, what if this is a lesser version of the Ben Johnson Lions? And it's like, he's Amon-Ra, right? I'm not saying he's as good as Amon-Ra. I'm just saying like, he's like that, where you're just like, yeah, it's like, he's a lesser version of that, where it's like, Loveland is Laporta and Rome or Burden. Burden is JMO, so I guess Rome is Tim Patrick in this
it's weird because I think Rome's sort of Patrick. I think Moore is JMO, and I think Burden might be Amon-Ra. But it's just like the skill
or like role
stylistically.
The skill levels would.
But then it's like
Moore is
yeah. What if JMO was like way better, and instead of Goff, you had a guy who likes to throw downfield?
Yeah, right.
And then what if like Tim Patrick was actually good, and then what if, or Isaac Tesla now, or and then what if Amon-Ra like was just like a straight up gadget player, maybe, like that's. So I think the offense would look.
If they only threw quick screens to Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's who this guy is.
Yeah, you're right. There's more of a ceiling here than I was thinking. I still don't think it's like the massive ceiling, but I think it's.
Yeah, I should have chose my words better. I don't mean like massive, like, oh my God, DJ Moore's, the wide receiver 3 overall. I don't mean that. I do mean like he is
like a
DJ
solid
Moore 2
week
years
in,
ago.
week out wide receiver 1.
Right. A better version of last year's Terry McLaurin. Right.
Yeah.
That like I know, like it's kind of Mike Evansy, where you're like, I don't know, man. Mike Evans is just never gonna smash,
Totally.
but like he's Mike Evans on the Bucs offense rocks, right? Like Baker rocks, the Bucs rock, the offensive line's awesome. Like, yeah, Ibuka and Godwin and these other guys are gonna take targets, so he's never gonna like be dominant, but you're just like gonna get a shitload of good games and give me the biggest one when it matters. Because the Bears, because Caleb takes the leap and Ben Johnson is awesome. And maybe Rome is just kind of this meh guy, and maybe Burden doesn't, exceed. Like, what if Roman Burden suck? Right? Like, what if Roman Burden suck? Like, he can operate alongside Colston Loveland. Colston Loveland can eat, and DJ Moore can also eat. Like, there's just paths to just like, if he's not washed, right? I think that there's a lot of paths to like, yeah, dude, I just would love, like, we talked about this before too, right? If it all works and you show up to week 17 and this dude's on your team, are you like, especially at low ownership? Like, are you cool with DJ Moore? 5% own DJ Moore in the Best Ball Mania finals, right?
I certainly could be. I certainly could be. Yeah.
That's how I felt.
You're telling me he's not washed
about Mike Evans. That's like how I've always felt about Mike Evans. I'm like, totally. I hate clicking him, but like, I don't know, man. If he's 5% in the Best Ball finals, like, sign me up. Cool.
Totally. Yeah, no, I feel you.
So, but polarizing, obviously.
Very polarizing.
Situation. Like, I don't have any idea what the hell is going to happen. And I think every single case that someone can make for or against every player on the offense is valid. Like, if you wanted to say I hate any of them or I love any of them, I would listen and I wouldn't call you crazy.
Yeah,
except Cole Kmet.
Well, Cole Kmet's done. Yeah. People got mad because they had Cole Kmet ranked like really low in the pre-draft period. It was like, I think they're live to draft someone.
I did have him draftable in the pre-draft, but he is not in the rankings anymore. So
yeah, I think.
Although if you drafted Dawson Knox before, you better be drafting Cole Kmet, because Colston Kincaid is coming down the road here for the old redo of
I mean, we have Kmet at 228, so it's like, okay, I'm sorry, you got completely boxed out at tight end. Maybe
I have him in the top 250. I'm lying. But yeah.
Well, what about DeAndre Swift? He's I wanted to kind of have a conversation about some of these dusty running back veterans that really goes from like, it kind of starts with Dusty's maybe a little strong, but like dead zoney profiles, let's say, at the running back position that actually feel like slightly underpriced to me right now. And I don't like it. I normally want to just like comfortably bet against these guys, but like Josh Jacobs, I think, is slightly undervalued. Chase Brown is still a little undervalued, I think, after he dodged the bullets. Kyren Williams seems appropriately valued. Breece Hall, I'm still in on. He doesn't quite fit that profile. I think he's more of a bet on talent than the projectable stuff. Joe Mixon very much fits this point. I think his offseason was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, this was about as good as, I mean, outside of some of the offensive line concerns, but they get the offensive coordinator upgrade, which maybe hurts him, because part of the old problem was that they were using Mixon too much as like
too much
offense. Yeah, but not too. But like Woody Marks is a straight up third down back. Like, he's not gonna steal early down stuff. So they might use Mixon like less in terms of running the ball,
right?
As a portion of their offense, but they might be a more potent offense. He's still gonna be the goal line back and everything.
Definitely. Can we vent about the Texans just super quickly? Because we just talked about the Bears and how it's polarizing for fantasy, but I fucking love what they did this offseason. Like, come in, you have Caleb Williams, just like someone might have CJ Stroud in Houston, and you say, right, and DJ Moore is not Nico Collins, but you have like some remnants of something that's still around on the offense, and you just say, what do we got to do? Offensive line, keep Caleb up, right, block in the run game, and then let's give him some toys. The Texans are paying Joe Mixon a good chunk of money. and traded a future 3rd round pick to move up to get Woody Marks in the 4th round in the deepest running back class that we've like ever had, and could have got anybody, right? Anybody could be Woody Marks. And you definitely don't need to give up a next year's 3rd round pick to get a Woody Marks, right? Their offensive line, they signed a bunch of dudes who should 100% be backups in the free agency period. Bad offensive lineman. If you recall the final Sam Darnold game where he was seeing ghosts again and getting face planted, the left tackle that forced that to happen, yeah, that's now the Houston Texans left tackle. So I'm sure that will go great. And then just said, you know what? Who cares about this offensive line thing? We traded for Christian Kirk. We got Nico Collins, Tank Dell. It's over. I like Jaden Higgins and I like Jalen Noel. I'm fine with those. If we had made other good decisions along the way, like Jalen Noel is, you're trying to win a Super Bowl. You have CJ Stroud on the rookie contract. You have Nico Collins on a fucking steal of he doesn't even make $20 million a year. You have Will Anderson, right, on his rookie contract. You have every cheat code available to you to just like, this is what the Niners been doing, right, with Brock Purdy. It's just like, we got Purdy, man. Who gives a shit? We can get CMC and we can pay this defender and we can do this to build the team up. And it's like, they said, no, we don't care. Let's give him the worst offensive line in the entire league. I just can't believe it, dude. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the worst in the league, but it is frustrating that they didn't improve it. Yeah, it's not great. But part of it, Mixon, to have Woody Marks be the guy they trade up for is awesome for him.
Very, very good. Yeah.
He's never really been like a true 3-down guy, and that he often comes off for 3rd downs, but he still catches the ball a bit on 1st and 2nd. So it's kind of the same. It's like Dare Ogunbowale upgrade. So that doesn't matter to Mixon.
Right.
So
Dare can go back to playing special teams. Yeah, that's the only thing that's changed.
I'm like shocked how much we kind of like Mixon. I don't know. That would be one I like. Are you drafting Mixon? He's going in the 5th round. It seems crazy.
I actually really like. So it's like not zero running back. It's like not hero running back. It's kind of like we call it like sandwich, where I'm still starting wide receiver heavy. Maybe that's also I can get my Bowers or my McBride or whatever. And like the fifth round, 6th round, sometimes 7th round, depending upon what site you're drafting on, running backs, like they rock, dude. Like I can get like a bunch of superstar wide receivers, maybe Trey McBride and Joe Mixon RB1, and then like Trevion, or like, again, depending upon the site that you're on, Caleb Johnson or Tony Pollard, or like these guys, like I don't know, man. I got like starting running backs that are like kind of good on good offenses as my foundational pieces. And I also have Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. And like it's like that seems good. That seems pretty good to me. So I love this range, and Mixon is a part of it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing, like last year, I'm kind of, I was thinking, like, what was I comfortable with last year? And a lot of the stuff that I was trying to do is like take some of these guys in the range of like where Brian Robinson was going.
Yeah.
And, I loved Jalen Warren and stuff there, but I'm talking more about the guys like kind of the dusty veteran types. Like Najee Harris was a totally fine pick last year, going in the kind of 80-90 range. And it's sort of like, look, I'm putting together like a 0 running back room, and some of these veterans are kind of, it's the chaperone concept of, these guys are helping the rookies, get there. But, part of the reason I felt good about those running backs is because the wide receivers had fallen off a bit. And last year, I think, was a lesson in like, actually the wide receivers fell off earlier than that. And you were taking these wide receivers who are basically helping you like fill out points, when you could have taken running backs who were helping you fill out points in a much stronger way than the running backs who you took to fill out points later.
They were competing, not with Saquon, but they were competing near the top of running back every single week, or close enough.
Yeah.
Whereas, like you said, you were just filling usable weeks at wide receiver. But Joe Mixon was like sometimes the RB1, or RB2 overall in a week.
Yeah, and Kamara and Connor, who I was a bit more on Connor because he was a little cheaper, but there were lots of guys in that range who were quite valuable, and you weren't, the opportunity cost at wide receiver wasn't as high as we're used to. And that's like where I think we're just doing that again with Mixon. Like Mixon had some really good games last year. He starts 26.8. This is PPR. 26.8. 2 weeks later, 27.2, 26.4, 23.4. He had a 35.3, 21.9. Then in the playoff, he fell off, scored like awful to close, but then the playoff 17.9 and 18 in the 2 playoff games. So I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna give me that and like at the 4 or 5 turn or even later, even in the 4th round, I do want to generally start like wide receiver. Like I love the tight ends. I love Bowers and McBride, but I like I like the wide receivers early better than the running backs. And part of the reason why is that I think I can win 2v2s if I have the early wide receivers. So it's not like true zero running back, but like starting, 3 straight receivers or 2x and a tight end, and then you take your running backs, or even 3x wide receiver plus a tight end, and then you go to running back in the 5th. Those starts feel nice. But you can also do stuff where you take a running back in the 3rd, and then you get back and get a receiver. But I'm not in this environment. I do find myself like not getting out of like the first 5 rounds as often without a running back, which I kind of don't love. But like, look, I mean, Kamara, it has an ADP of 63. I'm sorry, but like Devin Neal's probably not touching his role to begin the season. And
so disappointing that they waited until the 5th round to
I know
to get a running back.
And I know Tyler Shuck is probably playing most of the season, but like Kellen Moore's
can check it down.
He can check it down. This offense is probably gonna be built around Kamara. He's gonna project, like Kamara is probably gonna be like, when we do rankings, we're gonna have Kamara like RB9 in like week 1 and week 2. Maybe I'm broken by last year, but it does feel like when we were betting against Mike Davis in this range as a protectable touch guy, that was fine, but we got burned by Josh Jacobs a few years ago. We got burned by a bunch of guys last year, and they haven't really moved up a ton in price with really similar situations. I mean, I think, you can go down as well and look at Pollard and Swift. Aaron Jones, I am a little bit more comfortable kind of fading a bit.
Yeah, because Jordan Mason is just going to score more fantasy points and he's cheaper on the same team.
Exactly. But like Swift is like in a great situation right now. Pollard's in a pretty good situation. So I
drafted Tony Pollard on every best ball team I've drafted so far. I haven't drafted like a ton because I'm actually not to go off on a totally side thing, but I always would pile in the first couple of days to try to get the
rookies.
This is when I'm going to get these rookie values, and then I never got them. And so I end up drafting all these teams that have none of the players that I like. The whole reason I'm drafting on Monday is to get this guy, these 6 guys, and I'll draft 10 teams and I have literally 0% of all of them. And so I was like, I'm not doing this again. Like, it puts me in a bad mood for like a week because I wanted to get RJ Harvey and Trey Harris and Caleb Johnson and Jack Besh and all these guys, right, at these values. But guess what? All 11 other people are doing the same goddamn
That's
thing.
Why everyone else is there.
And I don't, and they have less patience than I do. They just pulled the fucking trigger, And so I'm like, I hate these teams. So I'm waiting it out a little bit. But Tony Pollard is my favorite one of these guys. I like Mixon as well. I've also been drafting a little more on PPR sites, which is nice for Tony Pollard. But he feels like the guy to me where we're like, everybody I think now is like, this Titans thing is a little more interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, Cam Ward, Ridley, right? Drafted a bunch of skill players, but not running backs until Mullings in the last round, which who cares? It's like, I don't know, man. They're just fucking running it back, and they might actually be competent on offense. And Tony Pollard is still good and catches a lot of passes. Like, this seems straightforward, and I can just get him whenever I want on any structure of team, and it's totally free. So yeah, I'm with you on this, like this collective group. Like I can't stomach putting out rankings that people pay for with having Alvin Kamara ahead of ADP, but we're straight matching it I'm just like,
we're ahead.
I'm just like, whatever the ADP is for Kamara, because I don't want people to screenshot me, that I'm the Alvin Kamara bro. I'm obviously kidding, but I'm like, the fact that I have Alvin Kamara like legit at ADP is like a miracle.
I don't like
you
it.
know me. Yeah, it doesn't make me feel comfortable at all. I'll say,
But I'll tell you what, I've built teams without Kamara, and it is not gross when you actually do it, because the second I take Kamara, and I've taken him at the 5-6 turn.
Yeah, he's an early to mid 6th round pick.
I take Trevion Henderson or I take RJ Harvey right after that, and that feels pretty nice. And it's like, it's a great pairing. And I'm like, I'm using this. This is and then those teams often have Bashal Tutin or Cam Scattaboo or frankly
And
both.
your opponent's Kamara teams have probably an early running back and Mixon and whatever. Yeah, it's like the perfect way to play it.
So I'm like, Kamara is a particular type of game piece, and I'm going to use that game piece to unlock the value of other pieces. And I'm going to build the very best Kamara teams out there. And I think he's undervalued from what his role's likely to be early in the season, kind of an advanced rate piece type of guy.
Peak running back chaperone. Like
peak running back chaperone.
King
this dude is responsible. I mean, as a person, he's not, but as a fantasy asset, he's very responsible. Imagine having Alvin Kamara chaperone.
That was like when I used
chaperone.
the OJ. That was like when I used the OJ glove fit. You call Alvin Kamara this really responsible?
Alvin Kamara. Don't worry, Alvin Kamara's in charge tonight.
Can you imagine what all the kids would be doing if Alvin Kamara was in charge? Oh my God, that's hilarious. But I love this range. I wanted to just jump super quickly to a couple other names because I think we're in total. I don't think this range is that polarizing at all. Actually,
I want it to be polarizing. Make it polarizing, market.
Right. It's more fun. It's more fun when it's polarizing. I just like all of these running backs, but I do think from a structural sense, you could argue that it's polarizing because for so many years we've told ourselves like these are not the kind of players that you draft, right? And then we just like have taken our medicine from last season. Maybe someone would argue
it's just a different game than redraft. So it just matters. Like if you get if you get like 8 weeks of Alvin Kamara chugging along, and you pair it with a bunch of rookies and upside, like we're very comfortable with doing this. We just normally don't pay as much for it, but like because you can't. The certainty of like, this guy's gonna be like, we're gonna have him ranked RB9 in the early parts of the season, and not RB29 or RB like 24. Like that's the thing last year that I was trying to do. Like, why don't you just pay a little more and you can get a straight up RB1, and then like what are you giving up wide receiver wise? Like not that much. You're not really giving up that much. These receivers, like the tier has broken, man. In fact, what if you're not giving up anything? What if you're taking Trey Harris or Jaden Higgins instead of some boring ass dude like Christian Kirk last year at the 3-4 turn? Like you had to have Christian Kirk.
You had to stay on track with wide receivers, so we had to draft Christian Kirk.
You just had to take third round Christian Kirk or your teams are going to be dead. Like, come on. So that's where I'm trying to learn a lesson. I'm not trying to overlearn last year, but that's the lesson to me is like, to some extent, I want to give me the profiles that are actually going to be like projected as RB1s until they flame out, which I do expect Kamara to do. And I expect Mixon to do it, but I'm not going to like, it's not going to be like Kamara and then I'm going to go get Javonte and then I'm going to go get, like all these dudes, Kamara and Mixon and Javonte and like everyone, I'm like, these people don't understand how projections work. Like I'm not doing that. I'm trying to I might get a couple of these guys, but then you better believe I'm loading up on rookies later.
Yep.
I just want to note before we move off this tier, Chuba is a guy, he's actually my highest drafted running back right now. I've only drafted 5 BBM teams, but I have him on 3 of them. He's going in the 5th. He's actually like fairly young. He's coming off a really efficient season.
He was 21-year-old as a rookie, right? Because he was, because he came back for the last season. But yeah, he's definitely not. He wasn't 23.
He's 20. He turns 26 this.
Okay. So he's 20. So he's 25 right now. Okay.
Yeah, he's 25 right now. Turns 26 in the summer. But in rush yards over expected, Derrick Henry finished first with 562, which is, I think, the most all time. Saquon Barkley with 549, which would be the most all time if not for Henry last year. And then Hubbard was at 282, which is normally a really impressive season. And, that's ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh Jacobs. Jordan Mason was actually right behind them at 207.
He's awesome.
He's good.
He's good.
Bijan Robinson, Bucky Irving, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook. So, he was very impressive last year. We expect the offense to be better. Rico Dowdle comes in. Rico Dowdle's going to back him up, I think. Trevor Etienne gets added in the third round. This dude's nothing. I mean, he's like a versatile backup. I don't think he's taken a starting job, especially from a guy who's just really efficient.
This is the Woody Marks pick, but they didn't give up a future third to move up and get him. Like, I was like, Trevor Etienne, like, what are we doing here? You already have Chuba and Dowdle. If you want a guy, just wait for the long list of 6th and 7th rounders. It didn't. So yeah, that could be wrong, right? Because it's a 4th round rookie running back, and sometimes those guys matter more than I think. But I'm not treating him as anything. He's not even on my radar.
Neither. Nick Chubb led the league in rush yards over expected in 2022 with 284, and then last year, or 2 years ago, Devon Achane finished second behind McCaffrey with 279. So to be in that like 200 plus range, 282. I mean, we're talking about a guy who was like literally 2 rush yards over expected behind Nick Chubb with a league leading efficiency season in 2022 and bested Devon Achane. I'm using totals, and Achane wasn't, getting a ton of attempts that year, but you see my point. There's like legit high-end rushing efficiency here. He's not going to be used as a receiver. It is a 2-down profile, but in a half PPR format, I feel like he's a bet on talent play, and just another one of these guys that I think we could easily see Hubbard being ranked like RB, like it's week 3, and Chuba Hubbard's RB9.
100%. I will also add, he's not a total. He's not like this isn't a real receiver, but he'll be out there and run routes and catch checkdowns, right? He's like Mixon-y in the receive. Like, remember Mixon with the Bengals? It's like he's technically an early down player, but he's also like going to run some swing routes and check down. And the little pass block and leak out and catch some checkdowns. Like, he had 52 targets last year. Chuba did. It was only for 171 yards, which is why I'm telling you that. Look, there ain't much to it, but shit, dude. And even in half PPR, every catch can help. He had a receiving touchdown, right? So for the last 2 years, he has 96 targets. It's like, it's not, they're just check down targets, right? And so this isn't Christian McCaffrey. This isn't Achane. This isn't although Achane, it's a lot of check downs. They just don't feel like check downs, but you get the point. And so to that end, I was just curious. I was genuinely curious about Chuba. I was going to bring him up because I agree wholeheartedly with you. I think that the reason he was the big hit last year and it was hard to foresee was because he's just awesome at football. It wasn't just like, oh, the Jonathan. We thought it was Chuba's fine. We thought it was Chuba's fine. Brooks. That's why Brooks is going to take over eventually. Well, what it turned out was, of course, Brooks came along very slowly and then got hurt again. But Chuba's just like really good at football. That's why the win happened. And so I have Chuba like right around ADP, but same thing. I think he's just that's like a more of a structural weird thing. He's a target to me. I just like the Panthers also. Like, I think the Panthers made commitments to make this offense better. If they're scoring more points, do you think they're really good early down workhorse running back is going to get a little bit better? Like, yeah, Bryce ain't stealing the goal line touchdowns. Like, Rico Dowdle is not a better goal line runner than Chuba Hubbard is. Like, that he didn't play. I forgot I was going to pull up snap counts. Like, this is the other thing. People would be like, even if you're concerned about Rico Dowdle, right, stealing work, sure, that fine. He's better than Miles Sanders and Raheem Blackshear or whatever the hell they had going on behind him. Snap counts like got up crazy towards the end, but even when he was like mid breakout with 58, 74, 65, 74, it's like there's like someone else is going to play in all of these backfields. It's like, but do they just believe Chuba's better than Rico Dowdle? Yeah, I think that they do. And we're not paying for 100% of snaps. We're paying for like 60% of snaps. But we have the outs to get the the 90s. Like in week 13, he played 97% of the snaps and had 31 touches. Like that's in the range.
Yeah, and I struggle with this whole conversation because on the one hand, like we have a lot of evidence that taking these, it's like, okay, he's a 2-down profile that the market's not particularly excited about. Not a really high pedigree guy. Took him years to establish himself as the number one on his team. Even after he did, they tried to replace him with Brooks. It took until like last year for them to commit to him. And if you look at his contract, it's really kind of more of like long term. It's long term, but it's like kind of backup money, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, do they really value this dude as one of the most efficient runners in the league? Like, probably not. They kind of they're like, no, but we think this dude at the very least is a good backup, and let's get him on the roster as a smart move to lock him up at that point. But we see, this is like the dead zone. He's a dead zone back, doesn't catch passes. We could see the efficiency come back to earth. We could see the offense, as we talked about with Tetairoa McMillan, like, that's not locked in, that Bryce Young's the version that we got down the stretch.
And Andy Dalton's unlikely to get into a car wreck again when he has to come in.
Right. And, there's backs in this range like a Quinshon Judkins, like a RJ Harvey, like a Trevion Henderson, that we are typically like, dude, let me just like take the upside. But I think the thing with Chuba and Mixon and maybe less Kamara, but certainly like those two guys, these guys we used to pay second round prices for.
Exactly.
Like
what you just said was the error in our ways last year. We had the right intent we were basically using the chaperone concept with the running backs, but we were waiting too long because this range was the profile that we used to just laugh at and fade because they were second round picks or third round picks. And we were just like,
2-3 turn.
We were like, come on. Well, we can't take Chuba Hubbard in this thing, but it's like ingrained in your brain to be like, I hate that profile. I hate that profile. I don't want to draft that guy. And it's like, well, that guy at pick 30 is much different than that guy at pick 65.
Yeah, and like I actually think Jacobs is like slightly undervalued I think he should be kind of more on the 2-3 turn as opposed to in the early third. But that's more from me like thinking rationally and be like, I like have to create a player for him not to be it's like Marshawn Lloyd, who I've never seen play NFL football. Is the reason
Emmanuel
that
Wilson was good last year. Get ready to learn.
This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's like you have to come up with like I'm like by far the most likely scenario is that Jacob just chugs along and is the running back one for the Packers, and that's worth a late second round pick in this format, But I don't love it.
I drafted him on. Have you heard of Fast Draft? I've started to try out Fast Draft because it's only you only draft 6 players in their main contest or whatever. I drafted Josh Jacobs today on Fast Draft in the 4th round. I'm like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, but that's the spot where you're like, he's gonna be handling a big workload. You got injury concerns, like structurally moving away from the running back here really helps me. I think I don't know that I'm going to have a big Josh Jacobs position, even though I do think like technically he's probably a little underweight or underrated. But Chuba is a much bigger value than Jacobs is. Mixon, I think, is a much bigger value than Jacobs is, because you're just paying so much less for them, and you're getting like the similar type of bet,
Look at the quality of wide receiver that goes next to him. The quality of every position that goes next to him. It's like a night and day.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not even close.
So I don't know.
DK Metcalf or Garrett Wilson, Travis Hunter, these are like potential best wide receivers in the league versus like, maybe he'll be okay type wide receivers. It's just so different. George Kittle versus Trey McBride versus TJ Hawkinson. Like it's so different.
I just checked ETR though, and we're ahead of them on Mixon, which just feels disgusting.
Oh,
I hate it so much.
I can't believe you just said that out loud. You need to go wash your mouth out, I think. what happens there. Can I bring up one of these guys who
they're way
I
ahead
like,
of us on Kamara though. So.
Who you mentioned, like we talked about the old pricing of these kind of profiles, and I like this guy better. He's younger, he's more talented, but I've heard every case and I get it. But I think that there's real Chase Brown concerns with all of this projectable volume that we're passing on to him. Now, he plays for the Bengals. Pretty helpful, as we have seen, pretty helpful to play for the Bengals. He obviously earned it down the stretch, and they didn't do anything right in the NFL draft. I see it. I get it. But this is also a two more gonna. I do think he's gonna settle at the 2-3 turn, or somewhere in that general ballpark. And this does give me I don't know, man. He was a 5th round pick, and it's like you just said, we're just like Chuba's back there, and like he has projectable volume, and Joe Mixon's back there, and these guys are back there, and what Chase Brown did down the stretch, I'm not saying it was never going to happen regardless, but it was injury driven. Zach Moss, he was essentially the only goddamn running back on the team for the end of the season. Would he have always just fully taken over the backfield down the stretch? I don't know. Maybe he would have. And maybe they do just think Chase Brown all the work this year. However, Zach Moss it's like, I'm not counting, he's a 0 to me, but I am just saying they did restructure his deal. I'm just saying he's on the team. The actual important figure for me for Chase Brown, and this sounds disgusting, but they brought Samaje Perine in. And if you've been playing fantasy football for the last several years, you've learned that Samaje Perine is the single most useless player on your fantasy teams and the single most annoying fucking player for guys that he's teammates with in the NFL. Because what he does is he comes in on every 3rd down and every long down and distance, and sometimes the 2-minute drill. And this is what he did to Joe Mixon. He was doing this, granted it was the Chiefs and it was like fucking Kareem Hunt and Pacheco and stuff, but he was doing this in Kansas City. He did it when he was god awful on the Broncos, absolutely awful on the Broncos. And he was doing it to the Broncos backs, just making the whole thing a disaster. Again, I think Chase Brown is fine. I don't think the price right now is bad, but I have real concerns about if we're doing we love this, the cheaper veteran range of running backs. You have the Chase Brown, who I think is going to have a good season, blah, blah, blah. But is there risk at this price with the opportunity cost that he has that we're chasing the volume, right? We're chasing the projectable volume. The Mike Davis thing you said is like, part of the also thing was Mike Davis went to the Falcons and we were like, he was awesome when CMC went out, right? He was like an RB1 when CMC went out. That's what happened with Chase Brown. Now he's on the same team, of course, so we have a little more confidence. But I don't know, man. I just have it makes me get creepy vibes when we catapult that big hit from last year up and just say, well, he was a big hit and they didn't add anybody. It's like, I don't know. Sometimes this just doesn't work out either because it happened because of the situation, and that this year doesn't replicate that situation.
Totally. But Chase Brown in 2020 would have gone at the 1-2 turn.
That's true. That is true.
Like he's starting running back for the Bengals. Like we would have been it.
Where would Christian McCaffrey have gone? What would the first round this year look like in 20? Because there's a bunch of these good.
It would be
McCaffrey goes in the 2nd round.
It would be Barkley 1, Bijan 2, Chase 3, Gibbs 4, Jefferson 5, CeeDee 6.
Where CMC's in the 1st round, right?
CMC 7.
People don't give up that quick.
Yeah, CMC would flip Genty. CMC 7, but Genty's like 8.
Right.
Puka 9.
BTJ and Neighbors are not first-round picks.
Achane goes over.
Yeah, get Achane and Chase Brown up there.
But Henry.
Chase Brown, you know who Chase Brown is? What it feels like is fucking Kenyon Drake. Remember 1-2 turn Kenyon Drake? Where like small sample looks pretty good on this team, got all the work the year before down the stretch. They traded for him. I know the Bengals didn't trade for him, but it's like, is he really good enough? Like, is he a good enough football player to deserve this draft capital? And I just get, like last summer, I think I remember even you, because I was like, damn, Pat's making some good points about Chase Brown, where you were like, how good is he really? Like, I know we're excited about him, but it's like, how good really is Chase Brown? And I'm still not convinced that he's like that good.
I'm not convinced he's that good either, but they gave him all the work for an extended period of time, and then they bring in. I'm not worried about Perine. I think Perine's done now. It's like he's returning home, and it's like, oh, you are what you were a couple years ago,
the
right?
Cockroach fucking Perine is what they should call him, because he just keeps fucking coming out of the woodworks every time he's dead.
That's still how I play. I'm definitely gonna look like that when you put me on the field. I'll look like I used to. For sure.
This has been going on for like a decade of Perine, and he just keeps going around. Fucking. I would say he's a hired gun, but there's no fucking bullets in the chamber. It's like, he's a water pistol or whatever.
Perine's been like, he's just like been zoning out at work for like the last 2 years.
How old do you think Samaje Perine is?
29.
That's correct. 29, turns 30 this year. I was gonna say 31 or 32 actually.
We were joking on a Dynasty pod that somehow I got compared to Liam Neeson in Taken with a particular set of skills, and this goes to that point. I do have a particular set of skills, but it's knowing how old Samaje Perine is.
That's good. That's definitely the guys will sit around all day and name their favorite, obscure athletes. It's like, let's see how many guys we can get their ages right. And Samaje Perine is an impressive one in that game.
Yeah. But I think he's zoned out at work for like 2 years and just kind of mailing it in, and then they like put him in charge of this like very critical project. But he has to take the role because it comes with like a big bonus if he can pull it off, but he like knows he won't be able to.
Did you ever watch the show Silicon Valley on HBO?
Yeah, that's probably what I'm channeling. Something.
Remember Big Head?
Yeah.
From Silicon Valley.
He's Big Head. He's Big Head. That's definitely what I was channeling. Yeah.
He's making a shitload of money to literally do nothing, and he sits on the rooftop with all the other guys getting paid to do nothing. And then they eventually, right, whatever season, he gets some actual big job, and you're like, oh, he can't do this at all.
Right.
At all.
That's where I'm at with Samaje Perine at this point. And I mean, like they added Taj Brooks.
I do love me some Taj Brooks. I'm very upset that he went in the 7th round. Like, why is Woody Marks in the 4th round a better pick than Taj? I don't mean for us. I mean for the NFL. Why wouldn't you just wait for him to take Taj Brooks?
You should. Draft Giddens.
Mm-hmm.
How is DJ Giddens not the pick for a bunch of these teams? So much higher upside.
Didn't he also have some red flag like personal issue vibes or something?
I know he blue shirted his freshman year, which I think it's like academic stuff. So maybe I don't know that much. There were some like drops concerns with him as well, as far as like the receiving, because the receiving efficiency is great, but it's like all per catch because he drops the ball a decent amount.
They threw it to him a lot. He gets more targets than most of these running backs get in a career in a season.
I will say he reminds me of Ronald Jones in ways that both excite and scare me.
Thanks for ruining fucking DJ Giddens for me. Have a nice weekend. DJ Giddens is Ronald Jones.
Hey, it worked that one time.
That's true. 98 yards. So we're gonna get a 98-yard touchdown.
That whole season, he was a hit. Now the following year, he was a disaster, and the previous year he was also a disaster. But that one year was good.
But any of these other Kyren, we didn't talk about Kyren. I'm also terrified for Kyren.
Terrified.
Year 2 of spending.
He feels pretty evenly. He feels like
I think he might fall into a range where we are going to be like we just got to get some Kyren now too, right? If we're drafting Joe Mixon, I think he might fall to a range because I think everybody feels it with Kyren now, where it's like, okay, the Quorum thing was like slightly scary. I know the punt return shit was bullshit, but like, okay, they did it again, and they're raving about Jarquez Hunter, like basically as the Kyren replacement is kind of like how they're not saying that, but they're basically saying like we feel about him like we felt about Kyren Williams, which is like scary for Kyren Williams,
Yeah, although they keep talking about. I was looking at the Coach Speak Index stuff on that, and he was like, unprompted, just mentions how much they love Kyren Williams.
Yeah, I don't think his like role is changing to be clear. Yeah. I'm just saying it may not go the exact like he plays every goddamn snap, dude. Like, and it may not go quite to that level. And
Kyren's the one where, with these dude. Okay, like part of what I'm trying to do is we deal with more underpriced running. Let me back up again and just reiterate, this makes me uncomfortable. I'm just not used to the market doing this. The market used to overprice running back to such a degree that like I didn't ever have to think about this guy. Kyren Williams would be the 14th pick, you know? And I'm just like, yeah, that's too high. I'm not taking him. You know, it's kind of like right now with Derrick Henry, I'm not really drafting Derrick Henry because he's super old and he's a 2-down runner. And sure, he's coming off the most efficient season ever, but at some point it has to come off the rails. And last year, should I drafted Henry? Absolutely. But he's 2 rounds more expensive, and he's going next to some of the best plays at wide receiver and the best play at tight end. So I'm like, you know what? If Henry buries me with an incredibly efficient rushing season, which he needs to do because he doesn't catch passes at the 1-2 turn, I can live with that. But then I'm used to going, and if Kyren pays off the 14th or 15th overall pick, so be it. But if he's going in the 3rd round, which makes it trickier. And so many of these guys are trickier because of the price. But going into the profile, like Kyren at least wasn't like that great last year. He wasn't a disaster.
Yeah.
But
they just love him and trust him.
Yeah. But they do have guys. I mean, Corum's in his 2nd year, and then they draft Hunter. So if Kyren is not that great, he was at 0 rush yards over expected. He was like dead even. That's not horrible. David Montgomery was at -4, had a very solid season. Brian Robinson was at 15. Like this, it's not like a disaster, but it does potentially leave him open. It makes me more nervous about betting on the volume. So Kyren is one of the guys that I think he's probably just like a fine pick. We have him like dead even with ADP. Chase Brown, by the way, was a little bit more efficient, but not amazing. 67 rush yards over expected. Pretty good, but nothing crazy. That's what
I think everyone has to be honest and just say that he's mostly a role and volume.
He's bet on volume. Yeah. But he's bet on
offense,
volume
and the
in that offense.
In that offense. In the Bengals,
so, such a high floor and high ceiling on the offense. Such little target competition. He's a young player, 3rd-year guy. Like, I don't know. I think he is a target, but I get what you're saying. Like, he's part of that group where I could see myself being. In fact, I did this. I streamed a few days ago, and I took Chase Brown because I've been trying to get more Chase Brown. But I took him on a team that I couldn't really afford the extra running back. Saquon fell to me at 4. I think I got maybe AJ Brown in the 2nd round. No, I had Saquon. So it doesn't matter who I got. But I took a receiver in the 2nd round, and then I grabbed Chase Brown in the 3rd round. And I grabbed a receiver in the 4th. It was like Zay Flowers or someone kind of unsexy. And then Hurts came back in the 5th. So I grabbed Hurts.
But now you feel the pain.
Now I have 2 wide receivers through 5 rounds. And there's like going to be a drop. Like I'm not going to love the wide receivers in the 6th.
And the 6th, well, that's the running backs we just
There's great
about.
Running back bets.
Yeah.
So that's where I was like, oh, why isn't Chase Brown a receiver?
Yep.
Yeah. So he robs you of flexibility. It's more about like the structural stuff than him in a vacuum being a fade there.
Yep. Can I share my favorite Kyren Williams stat of all time? Like, if you want to know about how much somebody trusts somebody, I'm a pass block nerd. Okay, with running backs, I get it. I probably care too much about it, but it is what it is. Last season, so a lot of guys are specialists. Kyren Williams is not a specialist, but he was an awesome. He hasn't actually graded out very well as a pass blocker. Spoiler: when you're 195 pounds, it's hard to be a really good pass blocker in the NFL. But if you go look at pass blocking, just how many opportunities the team gave a player last year, Kyren Williams had 179 pass blocking snaps. 2nd highest in the entire NFL was Javonte Williams with 110. There were only 5 players that reached 100, right? And Kyren Williams damn near got to 200 pass blocking snaps. It's just like because he ain't scared of anybody, dude, and that's why he gets banged up so much. He's gonna put his head down on running plays and go face to face with linemen and linebackers. And if you send a blitz or whatever, he don't care. He's going to throw his body all around. And so, coaches eat that shit up, dude. Like
They do.
You can see his pass block grade. It's not very good, but they don't care. Watch the effort. And so those guys are just really hard to displace. You know what I mean? That's why like the Javonte thing looks foolish, but Javonte's actually an elite pass blocker. And it's like, look, I know he sucks. Dallas assuredly has to know that he sucks, but I'm like, he's not gonna just like get like, no offense, Jaden Blue like is not gonna fully displace him for every single passing snap. Maybe he does play, right? But like, these guys love these guys, right? Why does Samaje Perine keep getting goddamn NFL jobs? Because they're like, worst case scenario, I got to do that's gonna go out there and pass block and catch a check down. Don't fuck it up.
It does feel a little Zeke-y with Javonte though, where
for sure,
yeah. Like he's
probably you can tell yourself that it was an injury, and like I'm not saying that I'm making this bet. I'm just saying you could tell yourself like we were drafting Javonte Williams in the second round. He's not that old, and the
pass blocking point's a good one with him.
He had a really catastrophic knee injury, but he still does. That's why he played. So like people are probably like, how can McLaughlin and these guys not displace Javonte? It's because he's trusted in all those different. Like they're like whatever. He's going to protect Bo Nix, so I guess we get to deal with the fact that he can't gain any fucking yards, no matter how well we block. So I don't like Javonte either, particularly, but I understand. Like,
I just can't believe we're here. Like that he's actually.
This is worse. This is way worse than it's ever been. Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and at least they could have drafted a fun, like well-rounded rookie.
Just re-sign Rico. He ran well at times.
They just I think Rico Dowdle can play a little
Me too.
bit. I think you nailed that one, but it was like we're doing Jaden Blue is just like a slightly bigger version of Deuce Vaughn, like where we're just like whatever. Anybody else, we're like anybody besides Javonte and Miles Sanders, right? They could not have paired two other than Zeke. They could not have paired two worse veteran backs that we're all gonna hate. So we're just grasping at anything else. And I'm like, the problem with Jaden Blue is he couldn't ever become a starter in college.
Right.
Like so like that's not any better. We just hate Javon. It feels very Kamani Vidal-ish where we're like, we just hate Gus and Dobbins so much. We don't really like, just give me the rookie. And so like, I get it, but I agree with you. I just can't believe like talk about polarizing. That's the least polarizing thing ever. Cause I fucking hate all of them.
It's so frustrating that the Cowboys like kind of understand the point about running backs like not wanting to invest a ton, but it's like the part of the reason you don't have to invest a ton is that you can go get a running back like really cheaply, or like you can find a Rico Dowdle who's like a totally cromulent starter, and then once you find that guy, just like pay him enough to keep him around. They're like, no. We're really going to prove it's replaceable by getting the worst runner in the league last year and putting him as our starter, and then the guy who has been completely flamed out on a free agent contract the last time he signed one, he's going to be our guy too. And then we'll draft a satellite back. Cool. Like, why do you what point are you proving at this point?
They literally have confused the fact that you can replace running back production for cheap with the fact that you can get running back production from the worst running backs on the planet. Like they're forgetting
that you can't do.
It's unbelievable, dude. They legitimately think like replacement level is just a human that can walk and like.
Do you think that unreal. Jerry Jones has texted Eddie Lacy to see if he was available?
I bet he's.
This is the
top of his whole text log is all those shitty running backs, all of them.
Trent Richardson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my!
Come on, God. Bring in some guys with juice. Bring in underpriced guys with juice. That's the
100%.
Yeah, like form a committee. There's a million ways to attack this. I don't understand. I just don't understand.
Like
to take one stab too at running back.
Yeah,
one stab with Jaden Blue. Like why didn't they bring in Taj Brooks or Khalil Mullings?
Taj Brooks would crush for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I'm very confident because he can do all the little things, but he has enough juice and enough talent to do something with the opportunity.
It's just so frustrating.
Anyway. Now that we've depressed ourselves, we're really on. This is becoming depressing. I was having a lot more fun talking about.
Well, we started talking about how the running backs are overpriced, and now we're bummed out.
Yeah, exactly. And we were talking about like literally, the segment was called Dusty Running Back Vets. So generally, that doesn't bring a lot of positivity to the conversation. Let's just rapid fire a few more of these guys. Well, we're on the Cowboys. We should do the Cowboys. We did the running back part of it, but they also didn't add any any pass catchers to the offense. So CeeDee, I actually have CeeDee Lamb at the 102, which is maybe a little bit of a hot take, but I'm just like, we just don't get that much potential volume on a surefire superstar who then also proved he can do it no matter who's playing quarterback. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like once he showed me that he's still a fantasy star when Dak got hurt, I was like, okay, like nothing like literally nothing matters for CeeDee Lamb. So I mean, I love CeeDee, but everybody does, right? He's a top 5 pick or top 6 pick or something like that. What about the rest of the Cowboys offense? Is there anything polarizing here, or is it just like Dak, CeeDee, some Ferg, whatever?
I mean, I think Dak, people aren't that into Dak.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of into Dak. I mean, his ADP is at 131. There's this group of quarterbacks that, we were all kind of generally liking this window of quarterbacks that starts kind of in the 80s or 90s, I guess. I guess Baker kind of kicks it off. His ADP is 88. The post Mahomes group of quarterbacks.
It's a sweet name. I thought you were going to say Post Malone.
I know
Post
that.
Mahomes.
Post Mahomes. There you go. But all these guys are pretty solid picks. And, I'd like taking most of the guys that go around, pick 90 to 100. But it's really the guys who have ADPs of like 119.1, Drake May, or later up through like the 130s that I'm really into. Like, look at like kind of how high we are versus the market. We're like way hot on Drake May, obviously, but Justin Herbert. Actually, that's Herbert's ADP 1.9.1. May's 120.
Love
but Justin
Herbert,
Herbert, we're way high on. Jordan Love, we're higher on. CJ Stroud, we're higher on. Dak Prescott, way higher on. And Trevor Lawrence, way higher on. He's at 132.4. And then I also like the guys going 140 plus Penix, Ward, Young. I like those dudes.
Total lockstep. Like almost 2 rounds on Herbert, almost 2 rounds on May. Love, Stroud, Lawrence, Dak, Penix, just like a round ahead on all of those quarterbacks. I could not possibly agree more on that.
McCarthy, we're like slightly behind on. I'm like a little bit. I think there's some downside with him. He might like not be as good as Darnold was, which
that's hilarious though. But yes,
it really might not be. Is he functionally a rookie?
McCarthy got hurt. I could not agree more. I'm not a big JJ McCarthy guy, but I just trust in Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson.
For sure.
McCarthy got hurt and Justin Jefferson fell. Right, in drafts, if you recall last year, where people were like, "Oh no, it's Darnold," and it's like now Darnold's gone, and we're like, "Aren't you worried about Justin Jefferson with JJ McCarthy?"
I'm not worried about Justin Jefferson, but I am worried about if we're like slightly behind. We're like a few picks behind on McCarthy, so he's not like a screaming target. And then I think Stafford's pretty good, and then you get to I think Geno's pretty good if you're kind of if you need that quarterback.
Like
Tua is okay. Like, but you're kind of through once you get to like really, I think once you hit McCarthy, you're kind of like past the point where I'm like super excited. Like these guys are kind of who I'm hoping to get when I get into drafts. But Dak is a big part of that group that I am excited about. And honestly, he's really backstackable because you can now I'm mostly getting Dak with CeeDee, but if I were feeling boxed out, I could take Dak at quarterback. Like, let's say I didn't have a quarterback one, and I could try to reach. Should I reach for like a Penix? I've got Drake London. Should I just take Penix? He's got ADP of 150, or Bryce Young because I also have Tet. Should I be reaching for those dudes, or should I? Penix is at 140, sorry. But you see what I'm saying? Like, or should I take Dak in the 120s and probably still get Penix and probably still get Bryce Young and go like 3 quarterback that way? Because I can take Jake Ferguson later. You can take Jalen Tolbert And frankly, you can take Avonte Turpin at the very end of the draft.
I like Turpin more than Tolbert. Is that crazy?
I don't think it's crazy. It sounds like you have familiarized yourself with the concept of upside. Which Turpin's an underpriced guy or undersized guy, sorry, but
I was just about to say it does. I agree. And he actually has shown something unlike Jalen Tolbert, but it is hard to wrap your head around like this 5'8" return man, little jitterbug guy, as that bet. But I'm like I said, I told you I'm not a sizist during the Hunter conversation. I'm willing to buy these smaller guys.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Turpin, if you have Dak, I'm not like Turpin's not a big part of like my goals, but if I have Dak, I'm pretty willing to take Turpin.
What about Ferg? I actually
Ferg,
like
I think
Ferg quite a bit.
I think he's really underpriced.
We did this last year. Like, what has changed for Jake Ferguson specifically? And he was, I don't even remember the exact ADP. I just know it was quite rich because, right, he had the good season. He had the monster playoff game, which is apparently a prerequisite to being overpriced by. We're learning that. We should talk about Xavier Worthy next on that note, because Gabe Davis does the big playoff game. Jake Ferguson does the big playoff game, right? These guys do the big playoff game. And then the next year, it's like, I don't care who you are, just fade these 4 touchdown last playoff games because they get apparently overpriced into that guy. That's obviously not the only reason why Jake Ferguson was much more expensive last year, but nothing has changed. He obviously had a disappointing year, but like if you had Jake Ferguson at this current cost last year, it's like, it's fine. It's totally fine. And there's multi-touch. You want to talk about spike week upside from a tight end? Like he, amongst the cheap guys, he has it in spades just as much as anybody else, if not more. I think he's one of the best, if not the best, like from a per point per dollar, right? Like Bowers and those guys are much better, but like point per dollar, there's not much better than Jake Ferguson to me in the tight end class.
I agree, and I don't love the guys. Let me just pull up the tight end rank. I don't really see a ton of difference between him and a lot of the guys that go around him, and he tends to go later than them. Yeah, like we're slightly behind on Njoku now. Quarterback stuff. They literally just drafted a tight end in the 3rd round who's a big slot. Who that can't be good. Tucker Kraft, we're a couple picks ahead of ADP, but really he's kind of like we have him right in line with ADP.
He's fine.
Andrews is going in the early 100s. We're a little bit wary of that.
Did you hear the latest quote on Andrews though? That he's
a great player. We don't trade great players. So
yeah, the Ravens are we're trying to win a Super Bowl, and the Ravens have their best chance to win a Super Bowl with Mark Andrews on the team or something like that.
Yeah, but why does it keep coming up? I was like joking with the rankings team. I was like, it is getting to the point of like, look, we're not trading Mark Andrews. Okay, he's a core.
Don't ask me if I'm mad. I'm not mad. Stop asking me.
Yeah, and it's like no one brought it up, man. Like you what? It's just.
So what do you think Lamar's going to do this year? I don't know, but Mark Andrews is a really key part of this football team. Stop asking me if I'm going to trade him.
We won't trade him. Don't call us about trading for him because we won't even take the call. My number, by the way. It's. I don't know, man.
Delete that email I sent to all the other 31
don't
GMs.
Even read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird to me. For a guy they're definitely not trading, it keeps coming up again and again, which maybe it's the media, but I don't know. The bigger concern for me with Andrews is that he, for much of the season, was in like a clear split with Likely. We were like ranking this guy as like a tight end 2. He kind of gets it together at the end of the season, and then the playoffs do not go the way he was hoping. And is he a clear-cut number 1 there?
I don't know. I'm going to take Likely, though. I'm going to draft a bunch of Isaiah Likely and bet that one of the like 4 outs he has to being a giga smash happen. Andrews is cooked. Likely Andrews doesn't even have to be cooked, but Likely takes another step.
Right.
It's just better than him.
Yeah.
Andrews gets traded, or of course Andrews gets hurt, which is I'm not counting on that one. So 3.5 routes to Isaiah Likely should not be going in the 120s or 130s. Like that one seems pretty good.
Yeah. So there's this big group of guys who are going in the 110s to the 130s. And I just think they're all the same. I don't. So like, if you're gonna put them in like, if I have to pay like 107 for Andrews, like, I don't think so. I mean, not all exactly the same, but they're close.
Yeah.
You know. And Ferguson is going 138. Like, I want him. Give me him. That's way too cheap compared to like Njoku, you know, going 10 picks earlier. Why Kraft's going 10 picks earlier, Ingram's going like 20 picks earlier. Tyler Warren somehow still going like 25 picks earlier.
That's crazy. That one's real crazy.
Real crazy. Dalton Kincaid goes right around Ferguson. I'd rather have Ferguson. That one's maybe less crazy, but like Ferguson's the number 2 on this team in terms of targets.
Clear, slam dunk.
No good.
It's not one where we're like, we're not like doing the Bears thing where we're like, well, Rome's the 2, but you're like, what does that mean? What is the 2 in that offense? Is he really? How confident are Ferguson is like, dude, it's Jalen Tolbert and Kevontae Turpin. Jake Ferguson is going to get the second most targets on this team. It's a slam dunk.
Yeah. And Tolbert is really not much at all.
Not good. If we're going to shit on a lot of other bad players, we have to. I mean, it is what it is. He wasn't like that great of a prospect. He didn't get that much draft capital. Those guys usually miss. It is what it is. And we don't need to hold on. We don't need to hold on to the player who we were never that excited about in the beginning, all because he's got routes, like because his team decided they didn't want to bring in any more wide receivers. Like, it just is what it is. We can accept it, right? We accept all these other guys are not very good. It's time to accept it with Jalen Tolbert. So that's why. I mean, you can avoid the situation, or I think I would just rather swing on maybe the Turpin thing is real. They started using him last year. They keep talking very highly about him. So whatever, or just draft Jake Ferguson. That's fine too. You don't have to draft Jalen Tolbert just because he's going to run routes.
I agree.
You mentioned Tucker Kraft. I just want to hit a couple more of these spots before we get out of here. You mentioned Tucker Kraft. I think that the Packers are a good one that we kind of discussed. It's like fucking Kmart Bears. It's the dollar store version of the Bears. They drafted a first-round wide receiver. They have Tucker Kraft, who might be their best player, quite frankly, and a bunch of mush at wide receiver. Obviously, Josh Jacobs, I feel pretty confident in Josh Jacobs' role. Jordan Love is like good-ish. Like, I still don't know where I put Jordan Love. Like, he's good, but like, how good? Where does he rank? He has some really disastrous first halves, right? It's like there's all this weird stuff. Matthew Golden is a very bizarre prospect. I get it. The film bros really like him, right? He's fast, but like definitely doesn't profile as like this is our alpha superstar wide receiver that takes our offense to the next level. It's like, what do you think? Dobbs, Wicks, right? Christian Watson injury stuff. Jaden Reed, we thought was going to be some really exciting player, and he's like shown the flashes and nothing special. Like, what are we doing with the Packers?
Yeah, Reed, I don't think Reed is one of those guys where kind of looking through stuff and doing the ranking. We didn't end up super low on. We're like slightly behind ADP. Have him at 80. His ADP is like 78. But he is a tough click. Golden's now flipped him for us. And Parkus' ADP is up to 74. So the market prefers Golden, and fair enough. But it's like, it's pretty close. We were taking a bunch of Romeo Dobbs. We had him really high in the rankings, and I was clicking him. He's hurt by the addition, but I still think if you're looking for routes, I'd rather take a shot on him than the guy like Tolbert or something like that. He's fine at ADP now, I think. Kraft, I think, is fine at ADP. And as I mentioned, I think Jacobs is fine. Structurally, I probably prefer to go away from the running back there, but like if you go wide receiver, Jacobs, that's cool. So I actually don't. This one to me isn't that polarizing outside of Golden, who's a polarizing prospect. But even he's not that polarizing because at this price, betting on draft capital feels fine. You're like first round wide receiver, available targets, good quarterback play, pretty good coaching. I'm a pretty big fan of LaFleur. So yeah, I think they're all kind of fine.
I think that's definitely fair. I think Golden was a polarizing prospect, and that seeped in here where you had just watch the games, bro. You don't know how good Matthew Golden is versus the is he ever going to do anything like produce at all? That would be nice to see all the he's the I'm not saying he's going to be AD Mitchell, but you just remember those guys where you were like, I know that the film bros like him, but like I would love to see like any production would be cool. And then the response is always, he's always open. Just watch. He's always open. And I'm like, I don't think you know how football works. Like, like you're telling me that these like big schools, both of them went to Texas. Big schools are just like, and then they will be like, oh, well, Quinn Ewers sucks. I'm like, yes, Quinn Ewers sucks, but like he doesn't intentionally throw it to double covered guys every play. And like the coaches don't say, hey, by the way, AD Mitchell's open on every play. Like come on. Like, let's be serious here. Like the whole, like he's always open, right? That's been the Ravens fan defense to Rashad Bateman, right? It's like, well, he's just always open. They don't throw it to him. And I'm like, Lamar Jackson has 2 MVPs. And you're saying the double 2-time MVP is not throwing to Rashad Bateman when he's like, that's nonsense. So I have very real concerns about Matthew Golden, but we've gotten older and not so stubborn. I think the price is nice on a first round.
It's fine.
Wide pick, wide receiver. I do think the Packers offense collectively is somewhat polarizing because I think we've overvalued, like when Golden landed there, a lot of the sentiment was, oh my God, I can't believe he landed in this crowded wide receiver room. And it was like, crowded in what way? Like they have a lot of them, but like I gotta, we all have lots of certain things. Like I got a lot of hats. It doesn't mean like a new hat can't come in and trump the other fucking hats that I wear. It's like they're just, it's replaceable. Like Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks.
You better be careful about saying new hat's going to trump your other hats. That's
good call. You're right. You're good. Very good. Very good. I'm going to get aggregated. I'm going to get clipped. That's funny. But it's like, since when are these like total replacement level wide receivers any fucking hindrance to math? Like if it's not the same as T-Mac, but not that goddamn different. It's like if Matthew Golden is a star, like this price is ridiculous. This price is egregious. So like if you're like, Romeo Dobbs ain't stopping him from being a star, and Jordan Love and the coaching staff can get him the football.
No one's stopping him. No one's stopping him. If he's a star, he's a star.
Yep. So I like Golden, even though I don't like him. I don't really like the prospect.
We're like slightly behind ADP now, but it's fine. I don't anticipate us falling like way behind on him. He's totally fun pick.
One more we didn't do is I got 2 more and we'll get out of here. Xavier Worthy. And I guess we can lump Rashee Rice into there.
Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. I had an opportunity in the Schnauzer. I was in there multi-tabling, and I, using the sidekick. Great for multi-tabling if you're trying to get volume in. But I was looking. I was like, I could take both of these Chiefs receivers, but I had Brian Thomas, and I actually took Travis Hunter and did that double up, and then I think I took Tet. So. It's going to be we're talking about literally all the polarizing players. That's what it's decided between. But then I was in a few other drafts, and that was like the first one that I was in, and I was like, man, I've actually been at this turn a couple times now, and I'm not getting both receivers falling to me. I was like, I probably should have just taken both the Chiefs guys and had a nice little double stack set up for Mahomes. So I came around again, and I did take both. Now Mahomes went the pick before to completely unstacked, nothing. I don't think he backstacked. He didn't get Kelsey. It was fine. I'm not mad.
Royals? Don't ask him.
I don't think he did anything. He just took Nick and Mahomes. But whatever. That team actually ended up being kind of fun because I did some other stacking stuff. But taking both those guys there is maybe like a little harder to get than I thought. And so I'm kind of into that. I'm into Rice. I think Rice is a little bit undervalued right now, with people not realizing that he probably doesn't get suspended this year. Drew Davenport had a thread on this, and it looks like the timing of his case is such that it's just for whatever reason, it's moving really, really slow and is unlikely to be resolved before this season as well. And so maybe he eventually does get suspended, but it's probably now 2026 that would be the case. So in some ways, it would almost be nice if he did get suspended this year, because they wouldn't have to start him on PUP, and he would, be like ready to go if he could play. But look at that, he's suspended. So he probably does miss some time this year, but I think it'll be him coming back from the injury. But I don't think he starts on PUP, misses 4 games. It's 4 now, right? And then gets suspended for 3 and is out half the season. I don't think that's happening. So, and there's a chance, obviously, that he avoids the PUP list entirely. There's been some bullish stuff on his recovery. So I think, there is upside for Rice to play, 15, 16 games this year, maybe even 17. And yeah, I like him. I like him over Worthy, but by 1 pick. And then Worthy, we've been debating the leg up rankings chat. We're like, is this dude? We all agree there's ceiling, but at what rate does that ceiling occur? Are we talking when he goes nuts? Is that a realistic outcome? Is that kind of a thin outcome? But Worthy's such a boom bust type of bet where he wasn't really that efficient last year. Jacob Sanderson was just pointing out in our Dynasty pod that his efficiency last year was pretty similar to Keon Coleman's. And we have very different opinions of what the rookie seasons meant for those players.
Yep.
But in part because you can see, it's so easy to see, if Xavier Worthy puts it together, he could just be such a smash.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what frequency does that occur at? And that's really tough to dial in. I'm generally into him, kind of a early round 4 type of price, but or 3-4 turn type of price, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just one of those where you're like, well, this draft might be over. I just took I took the equivalent of Rashid Shaheed in the 3rd round.
Right.
Yes.
So we do this thing in the Spike Week Discord every Wednesday. We call it the Lab. It's really just a big Zoom hang. So instead of me fucking rambling on over YouTube or typing in the chat, it's everybody going to the bar, but virtually, right, and hanging out and just talking about best ball every Wednesday. And we did all right, the contests are open. Everybody, who's the worst pick on the board? And we went around, and there was a lot of ones you might expect. And then a fella named Vadim, who's very, very smart, called Worthy the worst pick on the board. And I'll be totally honest, before then, I had just been kind of probably pretty lazy about Xavier Worthy, because I did the same thing like everybody did. I'm like, well, I really like Rice a lot better. But, the upside seems great. Obviously, he can spike, right? Because he's the fastest man alive. And he plays with Patrick Mahomes, whatever. I was just we'll just put him close to ADP. Cool. But I like Rice like a lot for every reason that you said. I'm going into drafts right now, and Rice is one of my priorities, especially on DraftKings. Sometimes, dude, pick 50 or something. Rashee Rice is just awesome. Like you said, he is already running routes and out there playing and stuff like that. He's not recovering. This isn't oh, he's still just not doing anything and getting treatment every day. What does that mean? I don't really know. I didn't see it, but it's a lot of positivity, basically, is what I'm saying. And I would like to get out ahead of that. We get to camp and they're like, yeah, wheels up, Rashee Rice. I would like to be ahead of that and not reacting to that as he's right. I don't want to chase we're talking about chasing the Travis Hunter tail. I'm going to get out ahead of the Rashee Rice tail. And if we get positive, if we get bad
if Rashee Rice is just playing this year, that whole thing I said about Ted McMillan is just the answer was Rashee Rice.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, I can't find target dominant wide receiver ones. He's not, he's not the classic outside wide receiver 1 profile, but he was target dominant when he was healthy last year. So if he's looking like he's just back to being the healthy guy, he's at least a early 3rd round pick, if not.
That's where I have him.
A 2nd round pick.
I have him mid 3rd.
If you just knew he was healthy, Like there was just he never tore his knee.
Well, he was going in the second. I know that you remember this in the big board last year. He was going in the second round.
Yeah, he's a second round pick. He's like, I would probably take Trey McBride. I like look McConkey goes and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna take Trey McBride.
There's a drop at wide receiver after Ladd, like a real drop, and he goes in. He would be in that new tier.
He would be however next to Ladd.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But again, 2.21 yards per route run for Rice as a we'll call it a freshman, and as a sophomore. Granted, obviously the small sample before he got hurt, 3.16. Xavier Worthy was on that team, by the way. So it's like Xavier Worthy 1.5, not so efficient. And like I think I'm not going to fade Xavier Worthy. I drafted him the other day on stream, but I got both of them. I took both Chiefs wide receivers, and I'm like, I'm not going to fade him. But like when Vadim brought it up the other day, I was just like started to dig in a little bit more, and I'm like. Even for me, I was like, I think the idea of Xavier Worthy is ingrained in all of our brain more so than what Xavier Worthy at least was as a rookie. And I think that Super Bowl going absolutely bonkers in the Super Bowl, right? Like it probably has some form of a lingering effect. And I'm just like, man, Rice is going to be back. Like Kelsey is back. Like they don't really throw that much anyway. Like he's probably going to have to hit some home runs. He kind of became a little more target dominant down the stretch. That's why he was so fantasy viable. They were like, well, what the fuck else are we going to do? Throw it to Justin Watson? We got to do something. Yeah. And so if that kind of goes away, I think, this could, like you said, this could be like fancy Rashid Shaheed at a really lofty price. And that doesn't feel very good to me. So he's a little bit polarizing because you could tell me the upside case, but you could tell me it goes really disastrously.
Yeah. No, I mean that Worthy part of it, we talk about like redraft versus best ball, and Worthy's like way, way more of a redraft type of guy where you just like, it's like league winner, just straight up league winner. Yeah. Worthy, and we agree generally, I think, as a kind of a market that he probably doesn't get there most of the time. We're talking about something that's like not a 50% type of outcome. We're like, right. It's like the ceiling outcome is so good, but like it's not going to happen most seasons. But in his case, when it doesn't happen, we could be talking about just an outrageously overpriced player. So it does feel a little redrafty. At the same time, I do like
the profile of a best ball player. It's a funny thing, right? It's like the weekly profile,
the weekly spike profile.
Yeah, it's weird. It's super bizarre.
Yeah, but that boom bust profile, I do think is kind of more when we're kind of like trying to figure out who the player is. That does feel more redraft to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when I look at one of the things I like to look at, obviously, is what Sean Siegel's got going on. He's an incredible ranker, and in particular, I think anytime there's someone that he's like really, really seeing the upside case on, my ears perk up. Mm-hmm. He is Worthy at 19 in his best ball ranks. So that ceiling, that ceiling is there. He loved him as a prospect too, and everything.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, I don't want to. Okay, yeah, you know what? Actually, he seems fine at ADP.
Exactly. Like I hear all these concerns, and then I saw Sean's rank, so like, ADP, cool. Let's not. I do think that like, if you wanted to just say, I hear all the risk, but I also don't want to get buried by Xavier.
He could bury us. I think he could bury us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another
he could bury us at a higher price than this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. And he doesn't like. Someone may say, well, can't Travis Hunter do the same thing? Yes, absolutely. Travis Hunter can do the same thing because Worthy doesn't have all those risk variables that Travis Hunter does that we talked about before. I know they go like in a fairly similar range. Last one I want to get to, because this situation I feel like could be a stone cold burial too. And it's somewhat similar with the 49ers wide receivers. I think I probably need some guidance on the 49ers wide receivers because we've never really seen them with this group. Obviously, no more Deebo Samuel. Ricky Pearsall now theoretically in his first season of a full-time player. Jauan Jennings becomes the first fucking like 40-year-old breakout wide receiver in the history of the NFL. And Brandon Aiyuk blew out his knee. So what the hell do we do with the 40? This feels very similar to if you wanted to tell me buy the dip on Brandon Aiyuk despite the injury because he's the best player, sure. If you wanted to tell me Jauan Jennings is the best player because he was the best player literally in the most recent season, sure. If you wanted to tell me Ricky Pearsall is year 2, first round pick, Brandon Ayuk's hurt, Jauan Jennings, what are you, fucking drunk? Stop it. Like, if you wanted to tell me that, I'd be like, yeah, cool. Like, the case seems good for all of them.
Yeah, I think Jennings is actually one of the guys that I like the most. And one of the reasons I like Jennings is that he gives you this nice combination of he was actually pretty good last season. And he also is likely to start reasonably hot. Now he's a receiver, and this bet could blow up in my face easily because, receivers are pretty unpredictable week to week. But 2.26 yards per out run last season. And we did this with Nico Collins a couple years ago, where it's like, oh, he was good. Should we is this? But it took a while for him to get there. Is this real now? I don't know. He's in a really, really well designed offense. The quarterback play should be stable and better than average, maybe well above average. I mean, it's kind of actually crazy how efficient Purdy even still was last year.
Yep.
The efficiency from the quarterback position we can count on to be very good. Brandon Ayuk's injured. Ricky Pearsall really didn't show that much. He had a good week 17.
That's why I remember it. That's why it feels very notable to us because of how much that week matters.
Right. But we're talking about a dude who had 1.31 yards per out run last year. He follows up week 17 where he had 8 for 141 and a touchdown with 6 for 69 and a touchdown on week 18. So it was a good close to the season, and he could certainly be a hit. But, you've got Kittle, Jennings, and Pearsall, and you're taking out Aiyuk, you're taking out Deebo. And, I think CMC will be back, but that probably helps the offense overall.
Yes.
And there's enough here for a 6th round guy for there to be some production right out of the gate. Jennings just does feel like you're telling me that, I get to bet on the offense. I get to bet on a player who was efficient. He's still on his rookie contract. And if anything, it'll probably be front loaded, but I have a lot of backloaded targets. So you're giving me a bet on talent play, bet on offensive efficiency play that's front loaded. That's a really nice pairing, and it's not something gross. I'm not having to take the Sutton and the Ridleys and stuff where you're like, well, he's the clear number one. It's actually not such a clear number one situation, but he probably is the clear number one to start the season. And then I get to bet on him just really being good at various points last year. There were several times where it was down to Jennings and Pearsall, and the answer was Jennings,
Yep.
So
it was down to Jennings and Aiyuk when Deebo missed time. And I'll remember that DFS week for the rest of my life because Aiyuk was the stone chalk because that's what you do, right? When Deebo and I think, CMC is out, right? Deebo, CMC are out. That's what you do. You play Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk had 4 targets and Jauan Jennings scored 45 fucking fantasy points. It was no, the answer is Jauan Jennings because last year, at least, he was better than Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think though? The only caveat now he's hurt, so that you can probably throw this in the garbage is someone could make the case, Aiyuk kind of sat out all summer with the contract stuff and came back. Maybe that's why he actually got hurt, as the conspiracy theorists might say. And it's not even necessarily a conspiracy. It's a reasonable reason as to why he got hurt. He was out of shape and whatever. Was a couple years ago, Brandon Aiyuk, the real Brandon Aiyuk, and maybe last year, with all the contract weird stuff, be written off. And, I'm not saying that means anything for Jauan Jennings, but does it mean anything for Brandon Aiyuk or him versus Pearsall or whatever?
Yeah, I'm still kind of in on Aiyuk, but it's hard for me to figure out what his I don't know. I've kind of bounced around on where I stand on him. I think he's a little overpriced given that he's going to probably miss time, and then he's coming off a multi-ligament knee tear, and we don't know like exactly what we're going to get down the stretch. He's been in the doghouse before with this coaching staff, but I don't want to like fully fade him. So, like I get like you're telling me there's back-weighted production available in a really efficient offense. I am interested. Pearsall is actually the one that I've gotten kind of the coldest on, where I think he gives you a little bit of that binary bet. Second year wide receivers, I think, are maybe a little more binary than there's certainly a way to find upside, but there's also a way to find downside. Because you're paying for some of that upside. Ricky Pearsall is not going here if he's like a fourth year player coming off the season he had, or even a third year player. So it's really we're betting on that second year breakout, but we're betting on it.
Like Rashad Bateman and stuff goes. Bateman was like fine last year and goes way further down because
or Mooney
he's older. Yeah, Mooney, right? Well, those guys can just never get to this price no matter what. They were both good last year, and like no one cares. But Pearsall's a second round pick, and
Pearsall wasn't that good. He had two good games. They were at the end of the season where you would expect them, but it's like
a good point.
I think he could be like a total bust, like just an absolute. Barely projecting for anything, barely doing anything. We're just ranking him. Like Pearsall could be ranked outside the wide receiver 50 every week down the stretch. Like it could be like ridiculous where he was going in drafts. But at the same time, he was a first round pick. He flashed at the end of last season. There's targets available to start the season, and he could earn a role right away and consolidate. So he's not like someone I'm enjoying fading, but it does feel like a little like, why don't I just take rookies at this price? At 73, I can get some of the rookies who, even if they suck, are going to get tried out at the end of the year in the same way that Pearsall was.
Right.
Why don't I don't really have that much confidence that Pearsall is good. It reminds me more of like the Jahan Dotson second year play, where he's coming off a similarly kind of inefficient rookie season, but we were excited about some of the touchdowns that he scored.
I thought we were done with the depressing parts of the conversation. Jahan Dotson.
That's what it reminds me of.
I was the moron. I drafted fucking a bunch of Jahan Dotson like an idiot, and God, that was.
I drafted some too because I'm like, look, what if? That's what it feels like to me. It's like it's not going to work, but what if it does? And in that way, it's kind of like
didn't work for them. It didn't work for them, but it could work for us. Yeah.
With Pearsall, I'm worried the what if it does isn't like that great, but maybe it could be. I mean, Jauan Jennings just put up two. You can be really efficient in this offense if you're you're trusted.
The Niners, I think, help make that Dotson specific outcome much less likely, just because, like you said, that's just what they do, man. Like, we're not arguing that he's not ever going to play. We're just arguing, like, is he really, does he fall fourth or fifth in line in the offense instead, which is not good, right? That's a nothing. It's a nothing burger. But these guys miss time too. A shout out George Kittle on the big payday. Did you hear Diana Rossini say that they were fielding calls about George Kittle at the draft? Second round pick. Go check out Diana Rossini and Chase Daniel. They do a pretty good pod. Chase Daniel's pretty good. Which is hilarious. He's got a lot of time watching football, he hasn't spent a lot of time playing it for a while.
So you watch a lot of film, right?
Yeah.
No, never watched much film.
Don't need to. Watch it live. Don't need to. But Diana said that they got second round pick offers for Kittle. Wow. And they entertained it, and then ultimately decided no, because they're going to go try to win it. They're going to go try to win a Super Bowl, and you don't do that without George Kittle. But I thought that was just somewhat interesting. That's gonna wrap us up here. What do you got? Anything in particular notable coming up, or just we're in the thick of it now?
We're in it. Grind. We're in it. We are working on eliminator ranks that we'll probably have roughly when the schedule comes out. That's when because I think eliminator, you kind of want to know the schedule. So
especially this year, there's the format change to the head-to-head format is like, if you overload buys, you're dead. Your team's dead. It's over.
Yeah, it's over. So but I changed the ranking process this year, which should allow us to support some of the other formats more easily. So I'm starting with the Eliminator, but hoping to support more of the other formats. But yeah, we've got Underdog, kind of Best Ball Mania style rankings up right now, and also DraftKings rankings as well. And then we got our dynamic rankings and a tool called the Sidekick, where you can, it factors in things like correlation and structure as you go. So you're seeing the rankings adjust for that. That's available at legendaryupside.com/sidekick. And we have some improvements coming out for that we're hoping for later in the summer as well. So some announcements there down the line, including things like we would, as initially promised, we wanted to support things like Eliminator. So we do expect later in the summer to be able to do that. But for now, it's a great way to try to get, if you're doing any kind of volume and you want to kind of help keep track of what you're doing in each draft, very helpful that way.
Totally agree. Grab your Sidekick. Also, grab code LEGUP. Come over to Spike Week and download the Draft Hacker. You can use them simultaneously, and so the Sidekick is going to help guide you to make it really, really easy on you. And you can also see your exposures and like combinatorial stuff. I got all kinds of crazy ass percentages up there on mine. First and second round pick together, quarterback 2, tight end 2. Like you can see absolutely anything. The list of settings. Shout out my guy Hacker for adding a million different settings. Whatever you want to see on your draft board while you're drafting, you can see it and you can pair it up with the Sidekick. And like, dude, it's unbelievable. Crazy 2025, the technology that we can create in a fucking weird game like best ball. But check all that out. SpikeWeek.com. Use promo code LEGUP, and Pat and I will be back weekly here moving forward. Like I said, we are in the thick of it, and I'm excited to get all the best ball drafts rolling. Drop a comment with one of your most polarizing players, and I'll hit you in a reply and see if you guys have anything spicier than what we got. But we'll see you guys next week. Peace.